Good evening, everyone. Are we ready to begin? Yep. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday, December 18th, 2024 McMinnville City Council work session. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And good evening, sir. I'm sorry, I thought we were starting with, oh, we are, and turn this over to Jeff Gooden to present the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Drupkin. Jody and myself have been working on this 3rd Street Improvement Project since August of 2023. And is that better? Oh. And we're gonna give a status update of the project. Our consultant BKF and tool designer here, Jason White from BKF and Matt Arnold from Tool. And Walt is gonna kind of give a little introduction as well. And Walt?
Mayor Drapkin, members of the council, it's a pleasure to be back here before you to talk about the 3rd Street Improvement Project. Your advisory committee has, which consists of over 20 community citizens and staff, have been meeting on a regular basis. So we've met for literally tens of hours in subcommittee meetings and had public input along the way. We've had a lot of discussion of infrastructure and how it impacts the 3rd Street Improvement Project. We've looked at a 50 to 70 year design parameter for how long these improvements would be desired to be functional and survive. We've spent a lot of time focusing on parking impacts and various alternatives. And we've ultimately, after a lot of discussion, settled on a curbless street improvement design to recommend to the council at this juncture. We've talked about the feasibility of tree replacements versus preservations and the safety factors that go along with safe pedestrian use of the street. We've had in-depth discussions about increased sidewalk area and hardscape and maximizing the flexibility in uses of the street. Ultimately, the committee has determined, in connection with one final issue, to recommend an increased bulb out size of 66 feet of length on each side of the street at mid-block versus a larger alternative of considered of 85 feet. The recommended alternative is significantly larger than the current bulb outs. The committee voted on Monday unanimously to forward their recommendation for approval of the existing proposal by the consultants to the council for council action on determining whether to proceed with creation of the 30% design documents that are the next step in this process. With that, I will turn it over to Matt and Jason, Matt from Sarah, Jason from BKF Engineering, to talk about the specifics of the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Walt. Mayor Drapkin, councilors, I'm Jason White with BKF Engineers. I'm the project manager for the consultant team, and just want to say thank you for your support through this process, and we look forward to providing our presentation tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matt with Tool Design.
Thank you all again. And of course, do please interrupt along the way. We'd love to be able to clarify things as we go. Our intent is to take you through the design permutations and the recommended design that Walt alluded to. Say a little bit about the process along the way. I just remind everyone we're here in preliminary engineering, which we're looking to wrap up. Our hope tonight is that you'll be great with our design, such that we can proceed to 30%, which we're aiming for in May. I'll tell you a little bit about that at the end. We've gone through a bit of a process since we last saw you. We updated you in February of this year, and we were closing in on a design. over the summer when folks raised some interesting questions for us about sort of flexibility. So, in other words, was the street going to be flexible enough for this 50-year investment to allow for enough of the events and potentially different uses than we're seeing today? Will this investment be flexible enough to accommodate all those? We went on a bit of a sidebar over these last several months with the Project Advisory Committee and the Technical Advisory Committee and the community as a whole, and that's the process that you see sort of before you. A series of meetings, very rigorous, as Walt has alluded to, and we think we've come up with something that does meet those tests. As we do with all the presentations that you've seen and that the community has seen, we always put our vision, goals, and objectives up front. And in particular, we're highlighting here in this box, this vision statement has been with us, by the way, since 2018. There are words like organic flexibility and future-proofing. These are the pieces that we've kind of clung to these last several months in looking for a more flexible approach. You'll see the words durable and long-lasting solutions, pointing towards that 50-year investment. One of our original design principles talks about an ever-evolving street that embraces change. We also want to mention to you something up front, because we feel like this is sort of quite important for the design. In this curbless approach that Walt has just told you about, the committee, the Project Advisory Committee, has felt it's very important to apply that not to a couple of blocks within the study area, but to the entire study area, from Adams to Johnson. This design is very sort of forward-looking. We recognize that there are technical challenges and there may be jurisdictional challenges with ODOT, for example, who has jurisdiction over Adams and Baker as they come across Third. But from a vision standpoint and a conceptual standpoint, the Project Advisory Committee felt this was very important, and city staff has agreed to apply this design that you'll see in just a moment to all 9 blocks of the study area. With that, just to quickly tell you a little bit about sort of how we got here, as I mentioned, we were on a slightly different path over the course of the spring and summer. What you see before you is the typical block as it stood in July, which had many of the elements that we've been designing and working towards over the last several years. These large mid-block curb extensions for public amenities, well-planted trees, at both those mid-blocks and at the Groves, plenty of space for pedestrian activity, widened sidewalks, and a reduction in on-street parking to accommodate those uses. This is where we were as of July, when this question really was raised by many of our stakeholders, business owners, property owners, et cetera, who said, look, are we really making this thing flexible enough for the parades, the festivals, the outdoor dining, these shared uses, and potentially with this big question mark here, events that we haven't even imagined yet. Will the street accommodate those? And they sent us back to our drawing desks to come up with maybe some modifications that would allow for that flexibility over time. We looked at a range of alternatives. We can provide all this information to you. This is just to show you in a quick single slide the very different sets of permutations that we looked at, eventually settling on the following characteristics. One, as Walt has already mentioned, is this curbless design, that having the roadway be flush with the sidewalks from building face to building face to allow for more flexible uses without having folks needing to navigate a curb is one of the things that we're strongly recommending. Just to give you some examples of what those streets could look like from around the country, even from right down the street in Sherwood, whose downtown has some curbless streets in it. Folks on our committee also felt it was important to increase the overall amount of hardscape as opposed to designated and permanent planting areas. The logic here being that additional hardscape would allow for pop-up events, public art displays, commercial activities, whereas fixed planters would limit the area that those could be dedicated for. We've also been looking at what we're calling sort of tree wells, which instead of these large planting groves, which were part of the design concept originally developed in 2021 and 22 for the project, by putting more of the trees into wells that could either be graded or bricked over, and we'll handle the planting details to make sure that the trees are survivable in that situation. It allows for more hardscape, again, for activities, such that tables and chairs and displays, et cetera, could be put right up next to trees. Again, try to maximize space for commercial or public use. The on-street parking areas were another sort of area that the committee was very interested in, maintaining flexibility within those zones for a range of activities, whether those are, as we're showing here, pop-up retail, parklets that could be, could come and go during different seasons, outdoor dining, and, on-street parking as well. One of the questions that we'll be asking next spring as part of our 30% design effort will be how to, with a curbless environment, how do you really differentiate the paving for the parking areas versus the roadway versus the sidewalks, making sure that pedestrians are clear and safe within this environment and drivers know where to be. Some examples that we're showing here from, again, from around the country, as well as one locally here in Portland, know that this is something that we have not figured out yet, but we will be over the course of the spring. Folks have also been interested in functional art ideas, being able to take not all of the bike racks or the planters, the waste cans, but some of them, and turning them over to potentially local artists as a way to call out some of the quirkiness that is right in our vision statement. These, again, are something that we've been engaging with conversations about with the community about. No decisions have been made, other than we definitely want to include them somehow, and where and exactly how that will be is a future discussion. We've also been looking at lighted bollards as a way to help with pedestrian crossings, especially at those mid-blocks, but potentially at the corners as well. There are some examples currently right down the street in Carlton that are in use and seem to be going well. We've been having conversations with other communities about these. This is something that we're interested in, not just from a lighting perspective, but also because it allows us to work with the street trees a little bit better. In other words, by having bollards that are lighting the sidewalk and the crosswalk from down low, it means they're not getting mixed up with the street trees. And it means that we can therefore spread the street trees further across the sidewalk while still creating a safe environment for pedestrians. One of the big questions that has come up from both our committee and from the community is how are we going to handle stormwater, especially in a curbless environment? We have been looking at a range of systems. Some of which are shown here. We can provide some information on all of these systems to you if you're interested in. We do feel very confident that we will be able to handle the stormwater even in a rainy environment in a curbless with a curbless design. As we've mentioned, Sherwood right down the street has similar rainfall to us, and they're able to do it. With these systems, it's unlikely that we would necessarily devote ourselves to a single system for the entire street. But rather look at individual locations and figure out what the best way to approach that is. Most of these details will be worked out in the coming rounds of design, but we wanted to let you know that we are on top of this and thinking about it as we move forward.
Quick question on
Please,
the
Mayor.
bottom right graphic that you shared. It shows a filtration system. Is that the only system you're considering that has some sort of mechanical aspect to it? And I'm asking just because I think that there's a higher level of risk of including mechanical aspects, and it could end up adding to the overall long-term maintenance costs for the city.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct, and that's certainly a concern with those types of systems. And this is one option, one consideration of those systems. We would typically look at the others first. And as Matt noted, we use different types of systems depending on the local conditions and where we need to apply these. So that's certainly our last resort, but we may end up in a situation where we have to have something along those lines. But we do acknowledge that they do increase maintenance.
I should also mention that while we're not committing to any of the systems right now, a few of the systems that we are looking at closely would actually sort of combine the stormwater function with the street trees in a way that is beneficial for both managing stormwater and for the health of the trees. So just wanted to sort of plug that in because we know that trees have been such an important part of the streetscape historically and for the community moving forward. with all that, we'd like to present to you sort of what the typical block looks like, as well as we've got actually slides for all the blocks at this, what we're calling a conceptual level. What you see here, looking down, is a curbless environment that does allow for some of the on-street parking spaces to be permitted out for public use or private use. We're looking at mid-block curb extensions that have been actually reduced somewhat from earlier designs at the Project Advisory Committee's recommendation. They do have additional hardscape. We're seeing street trees in those tree wells that I mentioned to you. We should be clear, we've not figured out all of the design details. That's work that's coming up. But these would be sort of typical placements to include things like bike racks and trash cans and benches and such. Okay. To show you just the kinds of things that we're sort of working on placing right now, in the diagrams you'll see in the coming slides, you'll see some existing trees that we're trying to preserve, and that is still very much a goal. We are trying to preserve them where we can. We're seeing a couple of different kinds of trees. The trees that will eventually be medium or large-sized trees to replace the great canopy that we have currently, as well as some small accent trees for color and potentially flowering at different times of year. You'll see some of the furnishings and fixtures sort of laid out. One of the key features that has been carried forward from the design work over the last several years are these raised planters with benches that would accommodate both trees as well as seating. So you'll see those as we march through. I'm going to move through these fairly quickly. Mayor, did you have a question? No. Okay, great. Move through these fairly quickly. Know that we do have all 9 blocks at this conceptual level. But just wanted to show you, highlight some of these, the differences and the things that we've been thinking about as we've been designing, just to make sure that you understand how closely we're considering this. First here, between Adams and Baker, we want to let you know that we are, as I said at the top, continuing this curbless design for the entire stretch, which would include Adams and Baker. Those intersections would be in this sort of concept completely raised, meaning that the highway traffic that is coming north and south on both Adams and Baker would need to sort of raise up to that level, kind of highlights those intersections, calls them out for the heavy pedestrian use that we're both anticipating and trying to promote with this downtown streetscape design. I want to particularly sort of highlight Adams in that regard because it'll be a connection to the library and to the city park in a way that we feel is fairly important given its close proximity to downtown. Also want to let you know on these streets that we are tallying the on-street parking spaces per block. They're generally sort of 10 to 12, but depending on individual blocks, if there are driveways and things, those numbers do change. You will see that we've accommodated driveways. Those are these sort of all existing driveways. Those are in gray. Should a business choose to reconfigure their own operations or something, there may be opportunities to close driveways, but that's not something that we're taking account of right now. So we'll just quickly sort of move down the street and highlight some of these key differences. You'll see these curb extensions throughout at the mid-block. They're generally offset where we can. The offset actually allows us to not only get the crosswalk in, but allows us to occasionally sort of stagger the trees, which allows us to help create that tunnel effect, the idea of trees sort of touching in the middle or arching over the street in various ways that is so important to the community right now. Several of the blocks in the western part of the study area and the central part of the study area are fairly similar. They're largely built out with very few driveway interruptions and more of the historic buildings.
Can I ask a question, please?
Well, you certainly can.
Sorry, back to the intersection between Adams and Baker.
Yeah, please.
My question is, there's been lots of dialogue around transportation. I guess I'm concerned more about Baker Street and if ODOT has given their 2 cents on any potential impacts because Adams and Baker are they're highways.
Yeah. Oh, Councilor Payne, it's a great question. And we want to be absolutely clear. This is the Project Advisory Committee and the community sort of preference at this point for the concept. Engaging ODOT will be one of the next steps, but we have not had those conversations. We imagine that they will have concerns in that it is a state highway, and there are always those sort of interface questions between what does a community Main Street look like, how does it interact with a highway, how do we balance out the needs for freight movement and vehicular movement with pedestrians. Those conversations are all still to come.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have another question from Councillor Chenoweth.
Oh, please, Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor. When you have those conversations with ODOT, I assume, one of the intersections that have been kind of problematic is crossing from, across Adams from 3rd Street to the park. And so I'd just like to encourage that when you're having those conversations with ODOT, bridge that discussion as well, to make sure we can get that taken care of.
Very, very much so. We really do feel like, and it's a great time of year to be asking that question with the, the tree lighting, et cetera. That connection, across to City Park is crucial. You'll actually notice in this particular drawing, we're actually showing crosswalks on both the north and south side of 3rd Street across Adams, which, does not currently exist today. That would be another point of conversation with ODOT.
Yeah, I'd love to see, even the electronic flashing, because crossing at that intersection has been a problem.
Yeah, we'll certainly explore all options.
And we have a question from Councillor Gary.
Just on that subject, talking about these and keeping people safe, and as we interface with ODOT and state guidelines, we have an adopted active 99W transportation plan that ODOT helped us fund due to this couplet in Highway 99 being, and I say this every time because I was part of that group, being one of the top 10 most dangerous stretches of road in the state of Oregon for non-motorized vehicles. Top 10 most dangerous stretch of road in the state of Oregon for anybody not in a car. And so that plan includes things like those flashing beacons at this, and it talks about these intersections specifically, but the whole stretch of the couplet. And so integrating what is in that plan into this and maybe talking with ODOT as they come through about how gracious they could be in this project to incorporate as much of that safety design as possible in this project would be something that we'd like to see happen.
Completely appreciate it. Anytime we can take what is essentially a sort of a streetscape and an infrastructure project and have spillover effects that are positive to the rest of the system, absolutely.
Thank you.
And we appreciate the prompt.
Thank you. And another from Councillor Peralta.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments from the dais so far. I am in agreement with everything that's been said. In addition, I would ask that City right now has a safe biking corridor on 2nd Street once you get past the 99, but on the side of 2nd Street where downtown is, it's incredibly unsafe because you go from a bike lane to forcing bicycles into traffic in one of the busiest intersections in the city. And I would hope that some consideration could be given in the planning for the cross that Councillor Chenoweth mentioned to bicycling because of those impacts. It's absolutely not safe to go from Cowles to Baker on 2nd, which is the primary route that we have currently. So I would hope some consideration will be given to that. Thank you.
Completely appreciate it, and I would just sort of challenge us all to be thinking as this project is moving forward. We are proposing a pretty significant change to 3rd and the way it's going to function. So if there are other sort of concerns about side streets, parallel streets, other operations of downtown, those are the kinds of things that we'll want to keep an eye on over the next several years.
Well, on that vein, another comment is that the cutouts that we have, the jog outs that are intended to increase pedestrian safety on 2nd Street actually really contribute to a lack of bicycle safety because it forces bikes. You can't ride where the parking is if nobody's parked there. You're forced back into traffic, and it's just it's an accident waiting to happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just keep moving through sort of a couple of these sort of additional slides. Again, we have this concept sort of worked out for all the blocks. Maybe I'll skip down to the, because as I mentioned, several of the central blocks are fairly similar. Skip down to between Galloway and Hembry, because you can start to see that things get a little different here, right? First of all, this is where Hembry is where the railroad tracks are. So just know that we are working on figuring out, okay, well, what does this curbless design mean when it crosses the tracks? The environment does change a bit there, so that's something that we'll continue to work on through 30%. But the last couple of blocks as we approach Johnson are also quite different, in that at Johnson, we'll have a left turn lane, so that folks heading eastbound can turn left onto Johnson. The traffic demand requires that. What that means is that we need to get a split, which you can see here at Irvine, to line up the traffic for that left turn motion. That then means that we can't have the mid-block curb extensions. There's just not the space for them. So these two blocks, the block from Henry to Irvine and Irvine to Johnson, won't have the mid-block curb extensions. They also have a couple of more driveways, as you can see on the south side, which would also prevent them. It means that there will be somewhat of a different character on these couple of blocks, but the goal overall, again, with this sort of the goal of the concept is to keep them curbless, is to keep the level of amenities in terms of the trees, the lights, the fixtures and furnishings and paving materials to be the same as all the other blocks. In part from just from an equity standpoint and the level of investment that's shared amongst all the property owners and business owners up and down 3rd Street, but also to anticipate potential future redevelopment that all the blocks are done to the same level so that future businesses will be able to enjoy that level of investment. With that, unless there are additional sort of questions, I'd like to show you maybe a little bit about what this might look like. We've rendered out, again, at a conceptual level, what this could look like. As I mentioned up top, we've not figured out things like paving patterns and what those paving materials would be, the colors, the exact sort of placement of all the furnishings and fixtures, but just to give you a sense of what things could look like in a curbless environment. We would be using things like planters, potentially benches, potentially artistic bollards, et cetera, to help distinguish the areas between motor vehicles and pedestrian use. That's what you see, the hint of planters there at the corners. As I mentioned early on, there's this opportunity to permit out on-street parking spaces for any number of uses. In this particular example, we're showing outdoor dining, such as you could imagine. The dining area would be flush from the parking area to that curb extension. Great for McFresco, but also great for any other day of the week, should someone choose to lease those out. You'll see in the foreground here those large planter boxes that I mentioned that would have sort of benches around them. Those would be at the mid-block curb extensions. The exact sort of placement of those, again, yet to be determined. But they would be placed in such a way that there could still be outdoor dining or pop-up retail, temporary art installations, et cetera, elsewhere on those curb extensions. Giving you an idea of that of the crossing there, that mid-block crossing. Again, having them at grade is a great sort of improvement for a lot of folks with mobility concerns. We understand that this may be a concern for folks who are visually impaired. We will be working closely with all available standards and latest sort of techniques to ensure a safe environment. And again, there are lots of examples around the country from which to draw. Just an overhead shot of what the street would look like on what I might call a typical day, but also, the street could transform into, a festival marketplace. McFresco is one idea, the parades are another. Any number of events could be sort of accommodated in this way, allowing merchants to take over. There are a few other elements that we want to show you that we've been working on with our project advisory committee. And they really fall to an idea of what does it mean to really sort of signify the street. How do people make their way from a wayfinding perspective or even for visual interest? A number of techniques that you see listed here, we'll go over in these subsequent slides. Right? Vertical art is something that doesn't really sort of exist on 3rd Street today. We don't have large pieces of monumental art, but there are opportunities for some at the gateways, maybe at key intersections. These would be signature pieces, perhaps done by local or regional artists that would allow folks to have visual cues for where they are on the street. There could be smaller pieces of art, maybe even inlaid into the sidewalk that create visual interest for folks. Maybe those are historic pieces, maybe they have some whimsy associated with them. but they, again, are an opportunity for us to celebrate the art community locally in ways that are subtle and reward those who are observant. Accent landscaping, something that we can use periodically. I did mention that there could be an opportunity for smaller trees that could be flowering, could have different color foliage. Will be opportunities for planters, for potentially folks to sponsor. It could be an opportunity for local landscape companies to get involved. Either way, there's an opportunity for seasonal color in ways that could be pretty meaningful for the events and things that are happening. We always like to put in a couple of plugs for what the private side developers and business owners, property owners can do with their properties. A great sort of before and after that was shared by our business resilience consultant earlier in this process from Oregon City, just showing what just a removal of a heavy awning and just an incredible paint job can do for really calling out buildings. And of course, 3rd Street has just an amazing set of historic buildings that could really would benefit greatly from these kinds of treatments. There are also opportunities for blade signage, which is great for pedestrians and for small businesses. Obviously, 3rd Street has really some wonderful examples, but we always try to remind folks that in addition to the public investment that we'll be making, there are some private investments that will also greatly add to the ambiance and character of 3rd Street. There are specific opportunities around the gateways at Adams, Baker, and Johnson. A number of techniques that could be employed. There are architectural techniques, paving treatments, landscaping. I mentioned monumental art, even an arch like we see here at the bottom left from San Diego. We've been thinking just at a high level, when looking at the full 9 blocks of the study area, where some of these things could be arrayed and how. I'm going to highlight in particular the gateways. These are very early concepts, and they're things that we're looking forward to working further on in the spring and beyond. But at this gateway at Adams, there's an opportunity for a large arch, if that's something that the community is interested in. And we have heard from community members and from our project advisory committee that this is intriguing. That arch could be complemented with some accent landscaping. That whole intersection, that raised intersection that we described, could be done with either different colored pavings, even some symbology that represents the community somehow. We're showing an example from Plainfield, Texas, but you can imagine a McMinnville logo, some symbology that's important to community members somehow. Because Adams and Baker are both actually gateways because of the highway and the way the couplet works, we're recommending a complementary gateway, not necessarily another arch here, but potentially monumental art. It could even tie thematically or in terms of the materials and construction to that potential archway at Adams that would recall it but not fully copy it. Could also have its own paving treatments, its own landscaping. And then there's the one at Johnson, right, which is the more straight ahead gateway. In other words, from Adams, you have to turn left into or onto 3rd, whereas at Johnson, you come straight from 3 Mile Lane right into downtown. So maybe that arch is somewhat different, and we'll have to really think about those designs, and we're really very much looking forward to those community conversations. I want to let you know that some of those conversations have been ongoing. We did have a community forum just a couple of weeks ago on the 2nd of December, very well attended. We've also had a survey out in the field that just closed last Friday. Just want to quickly share some of what we've been seeing. This is the way that folks were able to access it. We had 236 total respondents, which is fairly good for this project. I think it's our second highest number of respondents on one of our surveys for 3rd Street in particular. Most of the respondents are from McMinnville, not surprising, most either living or working or nearby. Interestingly, and we're not actually sure why, almost 66% of respondents were women or identified as women. That's interesting to us. Some other information about age there as well, just to give you sort of a sense. The demographics overall for survey respondents was fairly reflective of the community as a whole. But interestingly to us, 21% of respondents recorded that they had either a family condition or a disability that influenced their participation on 3rd Street. Just another reminder of the kinds of things that we need to be considering as we're designing, that we really are trying to design a street for all. We asked folks what aspects of a curbless design they appreciated the most. And you can see some of the results here. A majority of folks said that they prefer that it could be a barrier-free plaza without curbs to have to navigate. They felt that folks with mobility concerns would do well in this environment. A majority of them did. A majority also really appreciated that local businesses, restaurants, et cetera, would be able to operate in the parking areas with a permit. And that process still needs to be figured out, but being able to do that seamlessly without having to negotiate a curb. And then other folks, as you can see, also appreciated parades, ability to, get kids in and out of cars. There, you'll see 11% sort of other at the bottom. Folks did record some comments. We've put some of them in here. And we can always share, of course, the full survey results if folks are interested in reading them all. Generally, there was a support for just being able to walk around safely, especially during event times. The idea of closing things during the summer has come up. There are folks, of course, who are concerned about the design, and actually, let me show you some of those responses. We asked folks, if you with this curbless piece, what are your concerns, right? Separating parking from the sidewalks, folks do have a concern about what does it mean when vehicles don't have a curb to bump up against. Again, that becomes a design challenge for us to figure out what are all the different signals that we can send to drivers to protect both furnishings, fixtures, and pedestrians from motorists either parking or moving down 3rd Street, and we recognize that. A lot of folks are concerned about stormwater management. As I said, we are looking at that early and often to make sure that we do feel confident that we'll be able to address that. Please.
Are you able to complete your presentation in about 4 minutes? We do have a second work session.
Yep,
Okay.
got about
All right,
a minute and a half left, so thank you
Great.
very much.
Wonderful.
You'll see some of the additional sort of responses of concerns, again, largely around cost is one, maintenance is another, and stormwater. Okay. We asked folks about the kinds of events they'd like to see, and they've generally very supportive of a number of the existing events. They also have made some suggestions about bringing back some great events like Turkey Rama, for example, and suggesting new ones that don't exist yet, which is exactly the kind of conversation we look forward to having with folks moving forward. We did ask folks about the curb extension size, that mid-block curb extension, whether it should be the larger version that we were showing earlier in the year or this kind of reduced version. Either one would still be significantly larger than the mid-blocks as they are today. Interestingly, a simple majority of folks did want a larger curb extension. We should be clear, after a long discussion with our project advisory committee, for all the reasons we've been discussing during this presentation, the project advisory committee has recommended the smaller 66-foot wide curb extension and balancing out parking, private business use, and public amenities. And that's the 66 one is the one that's been on all the slides that you've just seen. We did ask folks about gateways and their support for various elements. We'll be working these into our designs. We asked them about public art, just the kinds of public art, not necessarily styles and themes quite yet. We did get a little bit of input on that, and again, we can share all of these results with you. And then we asked folks how to stay in touch, because we're moving forward with 30%, we believe, over the next several months. But the project will continue beyond that. Once we're looking for funding and things, we're going to need to find ways to stay engaged with community members, and we've been collecting the topics that they're interested, the ways that they'd like to talk to us, and their email addresses as well. So with that, we'll stop our stuff now, and you can ask us any clarifying questions.
Perfect. Any questions from members of the council? All right. Well, do you have some closing thoughts, Mr. Gao?
Only I think the Project Advisor Committee has made a recommendation to the council that the consultants be essentially directed to proceed to complete the 30% design based upon the information provided so that we can move into the funding phase. And that's really the issue before the council, whether to give that direction to proceed with the final preparation of a 30% design based on the advisory committee's recommended preliminary design.
Sure. And as you know, we don't make decisions in work session. So I guess what I would really ask is, are there any counselors that want to protest the project moving forward? And if so, could you speak now? Okay. We'll say that suffices.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Mayor,
yes?
we will provide this presentation to you. I will send it to Claudia so she can get that out to all of you.
Perfect. We'll receive the slide deck. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you for all of the volunteers working to bring this project forward, and thank you for the advice and expertise that you're bringing to the project. We greatly appreciate it. We now have another work session this evening, and this is on our poll results on the Culture, Parks, and Recreation project, and I will turn it over to our Parks and Recreation Director, Susan Muir, to present. Oh, yes?
I'm sorry. Excuse me, Mayor. The first work session was part of a joint meeting that I might recommend.
Oh, do you want me to close that out? Okay.
no,
Yep.
no, that's-
Apologies. The joint work session between the City Council and the McMinnville Urban Renewal Agency is now closed at 6:40 p.m. I will now open the December 18th, 2024 City Council only work session. I'd like to call that meeting to order and hand it over to our Parks and Recreation Director, Susan Muir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilors. I'm Susan Muir, the Parks and Recreation Director, and we're here to give you an update on the Culture Parks and Rec project. And because this is your last council meeting of the year, and some of you, it's your last council meeting entirely, you might see some photos of yourselves in here for those of you who are leaving but have supported Parks and Recreation over the years. And this is Councilor Mankey, who came out on a very hot day once to help us deliver popsicles to very hot kids at Discovery Meadows. So thank you for that. I'm going to keep this pretty short. You may know that we have a project timeline. And if I can do anything tonight, anybody that has more questions or wants to know more about this project, please go to iheartmac.org. I'm really going to speed through some of the history here, but there is a lot of information on that webpage, and we're keeping it up to date, including posting things like this meeting. But as you know, in 2019, just as a quick summary, we assessed the facilities. We had engineers and architects evaluate all the city facilities and really make a recommendation about what needs to be invested in the buildings, and then also a longer-term plan for how we can manage them going forward. With that, the Aquatic Center and Community Center weren't in great shape, and so we did what we call the Phase 1 feasibility report in 2020. And that was where we looked at the cost to bring the buildings up to current modern standards and sort of working, where we looked at that and kind of posted that against what it would cost to build a new facility. And through that, the council recommended that we move forward looking at one new facility to replace the Aquatic Center and Community Center, look at the Senior Center and the library, and then since then we've also added the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space concepts into it. But in 2021, we had a community advisory committee appointed by the council. Several of them are here today, either in person or online, and they produced what we call the concept plan. And that plan included the location for the potential new rec center, and it also included the concepts for what would be in the new rec center, the size of the amenities, and exactly what would be in there. And that was presented to City Council, I think, in early 2021. And then you may recall we had some financial stability issues across the city, paused for a little while. We also had a second, more informal advisory group that really advised us while we were working through those larger financial issues to deal with the location of the rec center, just because that was such a difficult conversation to have. And then in 2024, as you all know, I mentioned this a lot, this was your council goal. This is a photo from you at the kickoff of your goal setting, and we were thrilled to see that the goal of building a new pool and community center received all 7 dots from you all at that goal setting, and that really fueled us to move into Poll 1, which we reported out to you in May. And then we did a pretty comprehensive operating budget that I presented to you in the last couple of months. And that built into it the building maintenance costs and also setting aside money for capital replacement, as well as it allowed us to look at cost recovery and other financial issues for the ongoing operations of a potential new building.
And then, your last meeting, you authorized the city manager to enter into a purchase and sale agreement for what we call the Miller property, the location for the proposed rec center. And then tonight, we're going to talk about poll number 2. Since then, we've also been doing a lot, and the community has really stepped up where they support this, and I couldn't say it any better than Anna Barsati did in her editorial that she wrote to the News Register, that the possibility of these spaces really allowing our community to think about how we can be most impactful for community health. Jenny and I have also been hard at work. That's her with a microphone as we were filming an informational video. And then we've been doing meetings. That one in the bottom photo is at the Senior Center for one of the Friends of the Senior Center events. I'm going to introduce our consultants, but tonight they will run through the results of poll 2, and I think they're online and ready to go. I can see Jake. We have Ben Patinkin here from Patinkin Research Strategies, and Jake, who you know, Jake Wiegler from Praxis Political, is online as well. And then next steps after they present tonight, we plan on coming back to the City Council on January 28th to follow up on this information. So I will hand it. Jake, are you going to do a small introduction?
Real small. And I want to do a time check. Do we have a tight 7 o'clock end time, or can we go a little over?
We have a tight 7 o'clock start time for our next meeting, so if you could conclude by then, thank you.
Jake Weigler, I'm with Praxis. I'm a partner. We worked with you guys previously on the Fire District and the Dollars and Cents Engagement Project, and now we're working with the Parks and Rec team to continue the conversation about the bond. So I will turn it over to our pollster, Ben Patinkin. Ben, thank you. And I will say, Ben has had some power challenges where he's been. So I may have to jump in and finish the presentation if he loses signal during this conversation. Things are a little interesting in Washington State tonight.
Yeah, can everyone hear me okay? I just want to make sure that's the case. I'm doing this from a parking lot where we're in a windstorm.
Yes, Ben, we can hear you.
Excellent. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you all for having me here. One moment. And I'm going to move this to, there you go. All right. So I'm Ben Patinkin. I am a principal at Patinkin Research Strategies. We did a scientific survey for the city of McMinnville looking into this potential bond. A quick review of the methods. We talked to 400 likely voters in the city of McMinnville. We contacted people via live callers. So this was all done, through a traditional phone survey. We diminished the sample to reflect only a May 2025 electorate. So the people that we talked to were modeled via big data to be only voters who participate in off-year May elections. Interviews were conducted November 12 through 14, and the margin of error is plus or minus 4.9 percentage points. And I do talk about younger and older voters. This is an important distinction. Younger is under age 50, older is over age 50. Just a quick look at a difference between registered and likely voters. Registered voters just tend to be much older. You can see at 51% right there. I'm going to, they represent 51% of the electorate. Likely May voters represent, in terms of under age 50, only 22% of the electorate. Conversely, over 50 voters represent 77% of a likely May electorate. So you can get the feeling of the difference there. A May electorate is far older than registered voters as a whole. So lay of the land amongst these likely May voters. First things first, we asked how satisfied voters were with with how the city of McMinnville spends taxpayer dollars. 47% said that they were net not satisfied. Now it's a combination of not satisfied at all and not too satisfied at 47%. 38% said that they were net satisfied. The one thing I will note about this graph, there is a lot of people who have very lightly held opinions. And this isn't surprising when not a lot of people pay a lot of attention to local government, so they're going to have less formed opinion. I would also note that this is reflective of what we've seen in other surveys across the Willamette Valley. And frankly, across the country. There's a general sense of dissatisfaction with how taxpayer dollars are being spent writ large. You are not alone in this finding. That said, when we ask folks like whether or not they feel existing services meet community needs, there's a general sense that they do. So we asked a battery of questions. They're listed out here, asking each of these for each one of these services, whether or not folks feel that they meet the community's needs. 58% say that the parks and open spaces meets their needs. 54% the community center. 52% the public library. 50% the senior center, and 46% the aquatic center. All the way down, double digits more satisfied than dissatisfied with whether or not the community's needs are met. So while they're not happy with how taxpayer dollars are being spent, they do believe that their needs are met for each one of these services, which dovetails, frankly, with the previous poll as well. This question here is probably the most important slide in the deck. This shows you the numbers when we asked folks the 10-word caption and 20-word question that we think is likely to appear on the ballot should you put this on the ballot. They're in the blue box at the bottom. You can read bonds to build a recreation center, update park senior center, library, Shell McMinnville, update public recreation facilities and pool, enhance library, senior center, issue bonds not exceeding $153 million, audits required. When we frame it like that, we get to 43% yes, 32% no, and 26% undecided. Now, obviously, this is below 50. You still have an 11-point margin on the yes side. And again, quite a few people who are providing soft opinions. Those lighter bar portions of the bar represent the not strong support or opposition. You do have 1/4 who are completely undecided at this point in time. Looking at that same question by demographic subgroup, we pulled out the two sets of demographics that showed us a real clear divide within the electorate. Younger voters are very much in favor of this bond. You have 64% under age 50 voters voting yes right now. Only 23% are voting no, giving you a 41-point yes margin. That's yes minus no equals yes margin. Older voters are very divided. It's 36 yes, 35 no, 29% undecided, so a large number of them are undecided. This is also reflected in whether or not they have kids under age 18 at home. So those with kids at home, 67% yes. Those without kids under 18 at home, 37 yes, 37 no. So what I see in this slide is a need, especially knowing that older voters in a May electorate represent 3/4 of your full electorate, that work still needs to be done to reach out to the older subset of the community. Younger voters very much the base for this bond. In this question here at the bottom again, we laid out the cost for the bond. We noted that it's going to be a $2.52 increase per $1,000 of assessed value, and that it's estimated to cost about $54 per month for the average homeowner in the city of McMinnville. When we do that, on the left side, just first off, that's the first ask. That's the ballot language ask. We started at 43 yes, 32 no. The second ask on the right, you see how things change. We go to 32 yes, 46 no. What we see in this graph is a lot of price sensitivity. People are, and this has been the story of the entire election leading up to this past November. People are worried about their pocketbooks, and it's reflected here in terms of the shift in the no vote, in both the yes and the no vote. That said, when we, in this series of questions, we asked just about the general pieces of this bond. So at the very top, you see, we asked folks, do you favor or oppose the senior center? Then we also asked it about parks and open spaces, and the next thing down, then recreation center, and then the library. Now, the dark blue here represents all voters. So for each one of these, you get to around 50% who favor all four of these different pieces of the bond. You can see on the right hand that, you can see in the lightest bar, that's voters under age 50. They love everything that's going to happen here. You get to 73% who are supportive, it's through the roof. Then you can just see the difference in terms of older voters where they're just less supportive right now. And it's, they're hovering in like the high 30s, mid 40s in terms of their support for each one of these items. So in the survey, we tested 11 different messages. I'm only showing here the ones at the top 5 that really cut through. And I want to put quotes around cut through. Overall, the messaging was fairly anemic. This is on a 5-point scale, so very convincing, somewhat, not to, and not at all, or don't know. We're only showing the very convincing numbers because if it's not very convincing, it's not likely to move somebody. And, normally we want to see these things closer to 30%. They don't really get there. All voters, again, that's all likely May voters. Targets are people who start out yes, not strongly, or undecided. And in this graph, you can see that there's definitely a sense on wanting to support updating our parks, library, and recreation facilities will reduce barriers to physical activity, promote healthier lifestyles for all residents, as well as just a general ADA accessibility sort of message. That both of these testing sort of in the top tier. In this graph, you see messaging getting to needed space at the library, as well as messaging around the senior center. And again, in all of these places, you see, very convincing numbers around 1/4. At the end of the survey, we asked a series of questions to try and get a sense of what voters retained, what they thought about the bond after hearing all this messaging. So this scale is how descriptive is this? Does it describe the bond very well, somewhat, not too, or not at all? At the top of the list, you have makes critical facility updates. That's at 50%. But I'll note, as you look down this list, none of these things get to 50%. All of them are hovering in the mid 40s to high 40s, which is an indication, again, of the work that needs to be done to sort of continue to educate the community. I know you've been doing this for quite some time. It just feels like there needs to be more, particularly to that audience of voters over age 50. That said, when you do educate, you can move the needle. So we have the first ask, 43 to 32, yes to no. You have that second ask after we told people what the cost of the bond would be. We get to 36-46, yes to no. And then after we provide messaging telling people what this bond would achieve for the community, we see a significant jump in the yes vote, going from 36% back up to 45%. It's a high point in the survey. Opposition drops back down a little bit to 43%. So you can move the needle, but again, we're not at 50%. And that's the end of the slide deck. I'm sorry, I went through that very quickly, but I wanted to give you a little time to ask some questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Council, questions and comments on these results? Council President.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Jake. Good to see you again. What I heard from that was we'd be better to go for a vote in November than May. Is that basically the skinny of what you're saying?
You have an astute consumer of survey data. Yes, we do better in a high turnout election than in a low turnout election.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just add, I think we know at this point it's not fully baked. And some of those things we can control, which is going out and talking more to voters in the community, educating them more about the project. Some are things we can't control. We can't control inflation. We can't control the national mood. But we can try and work on what we can and then come back, later this spring and see if it's a possibility to go ahead in November.
Yeah, it definitely seemed the older voter and the non-kid voter should be the targeted outreach.
I agree. And I think it's not necessarily surprising because a lot of the engagement work to date has focused on people that regularly engage with these facilities, which tend to be families and kids. So we know we got some stuff to do this spring.
And I'll just add really quickly, this poll came out. There was another poll that we did for another municipality soon thereafter this one. They got very similar results. I don't know whether or not these data are reflective of a rejection of the bond itself and your plan for the community as much as just the general vibe within Oregon and the Valley right now. This is a snapshot in time. To Jake's point, things can change.
Councilor Geary?
Maybe more for Parks Director Muir on the subject of snapshot in time, things can change. Can we either remind us at the moment or send it to us additionally the previous round of poll data to balance against it, just to watch some of the, I know we asked a more mature or different round of questions this time to get another more refined answer or different answers as we move forward to kind of complete that piece of informing what the bond language or message would look like on the no sooner than May, but so November would still be in line. But can we get that data as a reminder? I know I went through it again, but in preparation, but clipping through that when we sit down and look through what you sent us now, can I see that at the same time? I just want to look at that and paint a longer picture to kind of blend that out. Because I know some of that was a little bit wildly different, and some of that was in line or different entirely. So I think that'd be helpful to read in context.
Yep, I will email
And
that
just a
out to mayor and council tomorrow, and I will also post it all on iHeartMac.
And just a really quick note, at least what I can tell from the top lines from that previous poll, that was done amongst all registered voters. This poll was likely May voters. So there's a lot more younger voters in that previous poll.
Good. Likely more younger.
Additional questions? Councilor Peralta?
Hi, Jake. Good to see you again. I'll speak into the microphone instead of trying to use my theater voice. Have you ever recommended that a body go forward with a bond issue when the polling is below, say, 60%?
Yes, I have. At the level that we are at right now, I think waiting for a later date to try and continue to educate is what I would advise based on these data. But I have seen communities from like the high 40s make it happen. It involves a pretty involved and strong campaign, but it has been done.
Yeah, I'll keep pointing to Chehalem, which Ben and I worked on a decade ago, and they were in their low 40s when they started. And if they can do it, I think you guys could do it. But yeah, it definitely shows you there's some work to be done. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think it means that it's the end of the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the big takeaways, and since staff wants, signals from the council, I think that this, the polling in particular on the tax perceptions, gives me more pause about the increment rate increase recommended by the Budget Committee than it does on this project. So I wanted to just send that note to staff. And with regard to this project, it seems like there's a lot of work to be done to educate people on the situation in the facilities. I can appreciate the difference in the community between people who are not as frequent users of these facilities versus people who are more likely to be users of the facilities. I'm very sympathetic to families with children deserving a community center that doesn't have a leaky roof and is actually safe for people to use. So it doesn't necessarily deter me from supporting this project, but I am clearly seeing a lot of sensitivity. And I would just say, this Christmas season, I've seen more need in the community than I have in previous years, which I think should inform our decision-making going forward.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions, Council President?
Yeah, just to Councilor Peralta's point, I believe we moved forward with the fire district at 54, 56%. We weren't above 60 when we first started down that path of a full dais wanting to move forward with something. So I realize I won't be here when you guys make that decision, but just some context of what we've done in this community recently.
And Councilor Menke?
My recollection is when we did the transportation bond, we were somewhere in the low to middle 50s. So I think that there is a real, I think that we could move the dial on this with some work. I do think that a number of the council members need to be a part of the discussions that happen. Just dealing with the fire district versus what happened with the transportation bond. There were a number of us that went out into the community and talked to people, and people kind of got a spread of ages and a spread of perspectives. I mean, we all were basically saying the same thing. We were very careful about that, and we met weekly to discuss it. But it's very important to have some kind of concise picture for people so that they can understand what they're getting and how it will affect them, and to get different perspectives from different people.
Thank you. I think I would just underline what Councilor Menke said, and you heard from the last two councilors that carried those two initiatives. Councilor Menke kindly giving credit to other members of her council, which is true, but Councilor Menke was the councilor that was really active in messaging with the community around the transportation bond and having in-depth conversations so that we're not just reframing questions, but we're really able to dig in so that there's not confusion on the flip side, so that try to avoid that negative potential outcome. And similarly, Council President really led the initiative and was mostly alone in that from the council, or perhaps entirely alone in his efforts to go out, meet with many community groups, talk to a lot of people. He often did the math for them of what their individual impact would be. I did that over and over, and so if the future council wants to continue on this direction, I think that Councilor Menke is offering up some very sage advice, which is that you do need to have your real buy-in from your leadership and the willingness to go out and do the work to educate the public and have those conversations. Okay.
And I might add community members too that are in favor of it. I mean, your budget committee could certainly be involved too.
Excellent. Well, we are running a few minutes late, so I am going to close this work session at 7:05 p.m. So sad to be starting my last meeting here 5 minutes late, but before we close out, thank you for being here today, and thank you for the work you did and sharing the information with the council and the community. We greatly appreciate it. A work session is adjourned at 7:05 p.m. And I would now like to call to order the special called City Council meeting of Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, and ask the city recorder to do a roll call, please.
Councilor Geary,
Good evening.
Councilor Menke,
Good evening too.
Councilor Chenoweth,
Present.
Councilor Peralta,
Here.
Councilor Payne,
Present.
Council President Garvin,
Here.
and Mayor Drabkin.
Here, thank you so much. I'm going to do something a little unusual with the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Not with the pledge itself, don't worry. I have had the opportunity to work with so many people throughout this community, and I wanted to take this opportunity to invite a number of community members to join me. The people I'm inviting up, many work for the city, many don't, and these are people that I've spent late nights with and early mornings with and rolled up our sleeves and hashed through things. I also just want to note that in the room, looking around, I see that there are many more community leaders in the room that I am not calling up at this time, and that is no affront to you. This is very reflective of having done a tremendous amount of work with these individuals. So if you don't mind coming up here, and then I'll come join you. If Kathleen George, the Tribal Council from the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, would join us, and Miriam Vargas Corona from Unidos Bridging Community, and Claudia Cisneros, our city recorder, and my mom, Joan Drabkin, and Patty Herzog with the McMinnville Economic Development Partnership, and Jody Christensen, both a Water and Light Commissioner and Special Projects Manager for the City of McMinnville, and Heather Richards, our Community Development Director, and Rachel Flores with Henderson House, and Jenny Berg, our Library Director, and Vicki Weibargen with the Housing Authority of Yamhill County, and Vicki Hedges, our Human Resources, our first Human Resources Director, and Susan Muir, our Parks and Recreation Director, and Laverne Pitts with YCAP, and Councilor Kelly Menke. If you all come join me in the center of the room and help me lead the Pledge of Allegiance, I would greatly appreciate it.
Well, it was close.
The one I kissed is my mom. And to slide a little joke in there so I didn't start crying. We're now going to have some ceremony and proclamation this evening. I would like to start by honoring our outgoing member, Councillor Kelly Menke. And we have a proclamation for Councillor Menke. Whereas Councillor Menke has demonstrated unwavering commitment to public service, beginning with her tenure on the Budget Committee in 1996, and whereas Councillor Menke contributed to addressing food insecurity by serving on the St. Barnabas Soup Kitchen Board for 5 years, and whereas Councillor Menke dedicated her time and expertise to numerous community organizations, including serving on the Habitat for Humanity Board from 2001 to 2004, and helping to advance affordable housing opportunities for local families. And whereas Councillor Menke championed economic and business growth through service on the Chamber of Commerce Board, including as treasurer, fostering a strong local economy. And whereas Councillor Menke's commitment to education and cultural enrichment was exemplified by serving on the Library Foundation Board from 2002 to 2006, supporting access to knowledge and resources for the community. And whereas Councillor Menke displayed exemplary leadership with Sunrise Rotary, serving as president twice, exemplifying the Rotary motto of service above self, and whereas Councillor Menke has exemplified dedicated leadership and commitment as a member of the McMinnville City Council from 2005 to 2024, including serving as council president from 2017 to 2021, and whereas Councillor Menke has actively supported regional social services and community well-being through ongoing service on the Yamhill Community Action Partnership Board since 2020, and whereas Councillor Menke's dedication to civic and volunteer efforts has made a profound and lasting impact on the lives of countless individuals within our community. Now, therefore, I, Remy Drabkin, Mayor of the City of McMinnville, Oregon, do hereby proclaim December 18th, 2024 as Kelly Menke Day, and in witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of McMinnville to be affixed on this 18th day of December. I believe a few council members would like to say some words about their service with Councillor Menke.
Councillor Menke, I first came to know you when you presented the transportation bond to the Kiwanis Club with Mayor Hill and Cheryl from Freeland Wade, and your guys' presentation of that invigorated me and the selfless service you've had over the years. We haven't always agreed, but I've always respected your position, and thank you for your years of service.
Councillor Geary?
I'm halfway through my second term. I don't know if you can remember back when you were halfway through your second term. And I'm exhausted. So to not even be close to halfway through the time you've put in merely on council, let alone that resume, is just a testament to the quality of character you bring to anything you do. And it has been a great joy in my mere 6 years so far to have been able to work with you at this dais. We started, and I started, and I had a much different opinion and view and different working relationship than I do now. And again, a testament to your character and to the effectiveness of this council that we can come together and work together from many different walks of life and different places in our life. So I thank you for your time and your passion that you've put into this city and to me and to this working body.
Well, I already wrote you a letter that expressed my heart, but I just have to say I'm going to miss having somebody with the breadth of knowledge, history, and experience that you brought to the table. In my letter, I made reference, I only know of one public official that I have ever seen at more events than you, and I don't know how he does it. It's kind of bizarre, but you are everywhere. You are involved in every committee, everything that is moving the city forward. You will see Kelly Menke somewhere in that mix. That's a testament. That just shows how much you care, how much what the direction of this city is of importance to you, and how much you're willing to give. So thank you, Kelly. I've also enjoyed the times where we haven't agreed as much as the times as we have agreed. And despite your assertion, I would always welcome your input.
Councilor Peralta?
Thank you, Mayor. Kelly, I think the first time I met you was at a public meeting related to the siting of a rehabilitation house right off of where your business was at the time.
Oh, yeah, I do remember.
So it's been about 10 or 12 years, and I've always appreciated, even at the time, your willingness to take in new information and change your opinion when the circumstances called for it. Since I've served with you on the council, I would echo the comments that have been made. I don't think people realize the amount of committee work that you have taken on that the rest of us have not taken on, because you're doing a big lion's share of the work. And not easy committees. YCAP, a lot of the most challenging issues you have been front and center on, and so I'm incredibly grateful for your public service and grateful to have served with you during this time. So thank you for your leadership in the committee.
Councilor Payne.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for letting a newbie on, appointing a counselor, and then offering a tremendous amount of patience as I navigated learning, as Councilor Yuri said, a fraction of what you know and your history and your experience. The times that I've met with you have been, like others have said, very telling about your commitment and loyalty and contribution to our community. I think what I really want to drive home is I appreciate your willingness to hear all sides and not necessarily try to sell yours, but really to just be very objective. And I'm excited for you to not have the lion's share anymore. I'm also excited not to be the new kid also. But I am very grateful, because when you do go to your committee meetings and your reports come back, they are very detailed, and I can't even imagine paying attention through a lot of what you endure in your committees, where there's a lot of adversity and you just are very unfazed by it. And so thank you for your objectivity and your loyalty.
Thank you, Councilor. And I want to reiterate that it has been an honor to serve with you. I first started getting to know you after you were a member of the council that appointed me to the Planning Commission, and you advocated for me quite a bit. I know, because there were open deliberations about appointees at that time in the council meeting. Though you have literally changed the course of my life. However, you've changed the course of so many people's lives, and they most likely don't know it. You have had a positive impact that has reverberated through this community for decades, directly and indirectly, with the majority of the city of McMinnville, if not every resident that's lived here in your time of service. You are passionate, and you are and you are also so willing. I feel like there's been many times when you say, "Ah, I'll do it." And we need people to step in. As a community, we all have to step in, and you step in and you step up. Thank you for being a shining example of leadership in the city of McMinnville.
Thank you all. I can think of so many times I've stepped my foot in my mouth, too. It's been an honor and a privilege to work with all of you. You all have different points of view, but I think we come together a lot more than we don't. And I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Put a tremendous amount of commitment. I mean, you actually have full-time jobs. I don't. So, like I said to Chris, most of you are working at full-time jobs. Some of you, too, full-time jobs. And it's a lot to be doing this, too. All I can say is I hope you all continue in your plans for community service yourselves. I know you're going to make huge impressions on everyone. You're fantastic people. And thank you to all of you who have put up with me online or otherwise during meetings. You're all fantastic, and the staff is just incredible. That's all I can say. It truly is. I trust you folks. I mean, I really do. And so, thank you very much for all of your service. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to report we have one more proclamation this evening. Oh, please, sorry. And Jeff. My apologies. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
We are able to celebrate a few proclamations this evening because of the incredible service of many members of this council. So in addition to Councillor Menke leaving the council, Council President Garvin is also, although still engaged in public service, as we know, President of the Fire Board has been serving the city of McMinnville for many years as well. And therefore, whereas Council President Garvin has shown exceptional dedication to public service, beginning as a volunteer firefighter with the McMinnville Fire Department from 2005 to 2008, providing invaluable service to the safety and well-being of our community. And whereas Council President served on the McMinnville JC's board from 2010 to 2018, contributing to leadership development and community improvement initiatives. And whereas Council President Garvin was an integral member of the pyrotechnician team responsible for organizing and executing the McMinnville Fireworks Show from 2010 to 2018, bringing joy and celebration to the city of McMinnville. And whereas Council President Garvin demonstrated a strong commitment to fostering economic growth and civic engagement through his service on the McMinnville Area Chamber of Commerce, Government Affairs Council from 2012 to 2018, and whereas Council President Garvin further supported local businesses and community development as a member of the Chamber of Commerce Board from 2015 to 2018, and whereas Council President Garvin has served with the distinction on the McMinnville City Council from 2015 to 2024, most recently as Council President, providing thoughtful leadership and advocating for the betterment of our city. And whereas Council President Garvin continues to show his dedication to public safety and emergency services by serving on the McMinnville Fire District Board since its formation in 2023, and whereas Council President Garvin's extensive contributions to public service and volunteerism have left a lasting mark on the McMinnville community. Now, therefore, I, Remy Drabkin, Mayor of the City of McMinnville, do hereby proclaim December 18th, 2024 as Adam Garvin Day, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the City of McMinnville to be affixed on this 18th day of December 2024. Counselor Geary, would you like to share a few words or thoughts?
It's nice to sit next to you now. I believe there's a page in the Memorial Elementary School yearbook where someone with a name that was right in between us got in between us, and we weren't able to be next to each other. Third grade, for third grade, Miss Payne's third grade class, there's somebody in between us, so we're closer now than we were in third grade. To have known you since then, and check in with you periodically throughout the years, and then to be able to serve with you now has been incredibly rewarding. One of the reasons I ran and joined council was feeling underrepresented in government, and to have you alongside there felt good. I think the way we were able to work together on all of the issues that came before us, planning related, budget related, fire, public safety related issues, you early on took my hand and guided me through a lot of that stuff. I really appreciate the time you took putting that work in with me, and the way we worked together on every issue, and whether we were diametrically opposed on an issue, and then the next item on the agenda, we were right in lockstep, and then right back, or any way around. There was never any issue. And in the COVID era, even on late night meetings, I don't like staying up very late. We would still spend another hour on the phone sometimes together chatting after some of those meetings, just talking through it. I think I'm really, really gonna miss you. And I'm going to take you up on that offer, that it's not goodbye, it's see you later. Thank you.
So I think I don't go back quite as far as you do with Counselor Garvin. I think I only go to 2012, if my memory serves me correctly, with a business group that we were involved in together. But, you know, tonight in the middle of that presentation on the survey that was done, we saw a classic example of what it is that I really have learned to appreciate about Counselor Garvin, and that's his ability to cut right through it, ask a very pointed question that got right to the heart of what we were reading and seeing, which was, should we wait till November based on what I'm seeing? Your insight has so often cut through stuff and shown stuff that I didn't see. There have been, I can't think of the number of times where you've actually moved me. I know some people find that very hard to believe, but moved me from a position that I was on to a different position because of your ability to see through that and ask the right questions at the right time. I can also say I don't think I've seen anybody work as hard on a volunteer project as I watched you do for the fire district. The amount of hours, the amount of time, the amount of effort, the heart, the passion, the love. I don't know that you will ever get all the credit and accolades you deserve for the effort you put in and how much you shouldered that on top of your shoulders to make sure that got through. And I would echo Zach. I already told you this. I'm going to miss you.
Thank you. Councilor Peralta?
Thank you. Counselor Garvin, I can honestly say, as someone who has worked with a lot of elected officials over the course of my career, that you are without a doubt.
Get closer to the mic, please.
You're without a doubt one of the smartest and most insightful people I've ever served with or seen in public service. And I'm grateful that your public service is going to continue both on the fire board and hopefully on the Mac Water and Light Commission. I think your service to the city and to our community, I'm hoping has many chapters left because I think you have a lot to give. And in addition to your public service, I would just point out that you're also one of the first people to step forward to support and resource community events. and community institutions that are outside of your public service, but through your business and through your personal commitments. I will remember when the fires happened in 2021, this is for the audience's benefit, we had a council meeting that went till 11 o'clock, as they sometimes do. And after that meeting, as I recall, you got in your truck and went to help people get their animals out and safe from the fires. And I was just absolutely blown away, because after that meeting, I didn't want to do anything other than go to bed. But you went straight back into work, and I was so impressed. So I'm really grateful to know you. I'm grateful to consider you a friend, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
I don't have a great story about how we met, because I'm sure the first time was when you detailed my car. But thanks for that too. I do want to say thank you to Adam's family for their commitment, as well as I see Carter's little face out there. So thank you for making a big investment. I want to say to you, thank you for being an example of always being all in. I haven't known you as long as others, but I have known that you do not dip your toe in the pool. You dive in head first, and that exemplifies leadership in more ways than one, because it shows us to be fearless. Change is going to happen, so we can be part of it, or, well, I mean, you've shown us that not being part of it is not an option. So thank you for that, and thank you for your work on the Airport Commission and the Fire District, which you know personally how passionate I am about that. I look forward to seeing you around other places, not just for my car.
Well, so, I guess not sadly, where I first remember really getting a picture of you was during the hearings on the marijuana. And you were there every meeting. What I didn't realize, although I should have at the time, and Scott commented to me afterward, is Kelly, he's at every meeting, and he goes to all the meetings, and he did for a number of years before he went on the council. You were amazing. And Scott said, this man's got good things in him. I would have to agree with my colleagues that you are very incisive about the way you approach the questions. I mean, like tonight, you just got right to the point. I appreciate that very much. I think many times your comments have really had an impression upon me on how you approach things. So I thank you for that. I think you bring a great deal. And it's sad that you are leaving the council. I'll just be honest about it. But I know you'll do great things over at the Fire District. You already are. I too have to say that it just amazes me, the amount of things you do. All I have to do is look at your Facebook account and think, my gosh, how does that guy get everywhere and do everything like that? Oh, and we're doing this new plan today. But it's been an honor and a privilege, like I said, to work with you. I think you did great work on the Fire District. I didn't in any way mean to demean that. I just think you probably needed a few more people back there actively working on things too that would have helped. But, you know, and it was a lot of fun to schedule for you. At least I was doing something to help you, so I appreciated that. And my very best to you.
Adam, we have worked so closely together over the last number of years that I'm going to say the thing that'll make me cry first so I can recover. But you have really become one of my most trusted friends. And I think that is reflective of exactly what you're hearing tonight, which is that you know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get an honest and smart evaluation of whatever's in front of you. You're not going to hold back. You're going to think about things from every single side of an issue. I know that the work that we've brought forward together is better because you've beat it up before it got here, and that made us go back and reevaluate and make changes. The partnership of that has existed over the last many years between these two positions of mayor and council president has been really important for the council as a whole, but only when you're really fulfilling those roles. And you fulfill that role so well, making sure that you go and you have check-ins regularly with every member of the council, and fulfilling this fulfilling so much of the job of running the city, which is so critical, of being sure that you're hearing every viewpoint that comes in. As Councilor Peralta said, you are absolutely one of the smartest people that I know and have ever met in my life, and I trust and value your opinion and your thoughts and your words so tremendously. Beyond the council, it is clear that you are good in life. You are good in business, and most importantly, you're a great father, and you show us that here every day too. Thank you for everything you've done for the community. Thank you. And our city manager has brought a commemorative plaque for your day. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody, for allowing us the time to honor these individuals as we start into our business agenda for the evening.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
We still got one more.
I did not prepare a proclamation for myself.
Well, somebody else did. So, audience, thank you for joining us for one more proclamation. This is about our outgoing mayor and her dedicated service to the city of McMinnville through many roles she's played and spent countless hours dedicating herself to. Whereas Mayor Remy Drapkin began her dedicated service to the city of McMinnville with her appointment to the Planning Commission on October 12, 2011, where she contributed to thoughtful city planning and development. And whereas Mayor Drapkin was elected as a city councilor for Ward 3 in the November 4th, 2014 general election and took office on January 1st, 2015, beginning her journey as an elected official. Whereas Mayor Drapkin demonstrated exceptional leadership and dedication as she was elected council president on January 11th, 2021. And whereas Mayor Drapkin was appointed as McMinnville's interim mayor on April 12, 2022, during a pivotal time for the city. And whereas Mayor Drapkin was elected as mayor in the November 8, 2022 general election, filling the unexpired term of Mayor Scott Hill through December 31st, 2024. And whereas Mayor Drapkin has also served on the McMinnville Affordable Housing Task Force, McMinnville Homelessness Subcommittee, McMinnville Urban Renewal Agency, as the chair, McMinnville Water and Light Commission, to name a few in her tenure as an elected official. Whereas Mayor Drapkin, in addition to her public service, has supported McMinnville's cultural and economic growth as the culinary director for the International Pinot Noir celebration, and by facilitating the merger of the McMinnville Downtown Wineries Association with the McMinnville Downtown Association. Whereas Mayor Drapkin has been a steadfast advocate for addressing local housing needs for nearly a decade, championing efforts to support homelessness and low-income residents. And whereas Mayor Drapkin's commitment to equity and inclusion has enriched the community, including the creation of Wine Country Pride in 2020, fostering a sense of belonging and celebration for all. Whereas Mayor Drapkin's dedication to serving and supporting the community has been invaluable, leaving a legacy of leadership and advocacy. Now, therefore, I, Adam Garvin, Council President of the City of McMinnville, do hereby proclaim December 18th, 2024 as Mayor Remy Drapkin Day in the City of McMinnville, and urge community members to reflect on the passion and leadership of this caring and community-minded mayor who is leaving a legacy behind, in witness whereof I unto set my hand and cause the official seal of the city of McMinnville to be affixed this 18th day of December 2024. All right, and we'll go reverse order this time. Kelly, would you like to lead us off with some comments?
Well, I just think Remy's wonderful, so what can I say? She's kind of like a daughter to me in some respects. A little younger than my daughters, but not much. I just have always thought you were a very bright spot in the council perspective. When you came on planning, you were, I thought, an ideal candidate. Strongly wanted you to be on the planning commission, and was thrilled to see you when you became a city councilor. I think you were appointed, and that was a fabulous thing. I think you have done an incredible job as mayor. I have been so proud of everything you have done. I loved what you did with Mayor for a Day, with the high school students, and you made the whole thing a city thing, and you brought other people and got them involved in it, which I don't think anybody had really done before. So, and then all of your initiatives, your hard work for the homeless for years. I remember when you first got on the council thinking, oh, that girl's a little radical. Maybe better watch her a little closer. And I'm a believer now, so. No, I don't know if I could give any higher praise. I thank you so much for your service, and I hope that you continue your service in many other ways. Thank you.
I want to revisit, well, Remy and I were a few pages apart in our yearbook, but that's when I first met Remy, was in high school. I believe she was a thespian-ish.
I lettered.
So my memory's still good.
What a surprise.
And I remember at that time thinking, radical, but the other sense, in the other version of the word, and that being bold is hard. You are not going to make everybody happy every time, and sometimes that's okay. But you can sleep at night with the decisions that you've made, and I think that sets a leadership example as well that our city needs. I also want to say, while I didn't know Mayor Hill well, I do feel very much like you were what our city needed to fill different shoes, but it was very needed. And it's been an honor to work with you, and thank you for participating in the appointment process to put me up here.
Mayor, I am really grateful for your advocacy to lift up the most vulnerable members of our community. I can remember, and you may not remember this, but probably 3 or 4 years before I came on council, I remember stopping you in Lowe's late at night and expressed frustration about the impact that homelessness was having on our community. And at that time, you challenged me to step up, and you acknowledged the problem and explained some of the challenges, and you challenged me to step up and do more than I was doing at that time. And that was a big factor in my decision to run for serve on city council, and then later to run for city council. So I am grateful for you to challenge me in that way. I think that a lot of people in this room understand, but maybe not throughout the community understand, the work that you have done to try to bring more affordable housing into the community, to try and bring services for homeless individuals into our community, and the success that you've had in those endeavors. At the time I came onto council, the the Affordability Committee and the Homelessness Committee were staffed only with part-time staff, and it was pretty much a volunteer-led effort. And through that effort, we have had the Compass Center, the Turnkey Project, the 170-unit Stratus Village. And most of those things would not have happened without your work bringing together a coalition to create the funding models necessary for that. Our community is better for it. It's much better for your public service, and I am grateful to have served with you.
Councilor Chenoweth?
So first, I forgot to say, Adam, I am expecting you to call my number whenever there's something on the agenda that you need to talk to somebody to make sure we get the right questions asked. At least I'm hoping you will. And I forgot to say that. Remy, you've already gotten an email from me, as is Adam, as is Kelly. Most people don't know this, but of everybody in this room, there are very few people I've known longer than Remy Drapkin. And when I came on council, it was a very tumultuous time for me. It was a very difficult time for me. I don't know whose brilliant idea, well, I do, but to do EOS, but we did EOS. And I remember hours of conversation on the phone. Hours of conversation on the phone. As I was trying to get through this very difficult process. I'll just call it that. And I also remember you distinctly saying, this was a terrible idea. If somebody's listening to this who was involved in making it happen, I'm sorry. But I appreciated that. I knew that you couldn't get two people that are probably going to disagree on more things than you and I. But we could have hours of conversation trying to find solution to a very difficult set of circumstances. And, I've shared this with people. I value that. I thoroughly think it's important that we have that ability to have those kinds of dialogue and those kinds of discussions. And you were never afraid to let me know exactly where you thought I needed to do things differently. And I appreciated that. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss the frank, well, maybe not all the frank things you say, but most of the frank things you say. And I'm going to miss our ability to kind of jostle back and forth. I do expect that you're not done, and that we're going to see you doing other things going forward. So thank you, Remy.
Thank you very much for all the time and effort and work you put into the city. I will benefit greatly. My family will benefit greatly. And as you mentioned with Councilor Menke, there are multitudes of people who don't normally engage that will benefit greatly from all the work you do. And you'll never get a thanks from them, but that's not why you did it. And I knew you before my service and in the infancy of your service in different ways, and you had done, and you have done great to create the person that you are. You're very recognizable, the persona. Remy is, you know who I'm talking about. And you put your body on the line and you put your person on the line for what you believed in. And that I will always view that, I will always strive to do that. You fought for what you believed in, and I greatly appreciate that. And I will always look up to you, and I will strive to do that. So thank you.
Where do I start? Remy, just want to echo everything else that's been said on the dais, but more than anything, watching you grow as a leader from a planning commissioner to a counselor, to a senior counselor, to a council president, and now a mayor. Your leadership styles have grown as time's progressed. Your ability to be very passionate and come to a situation with data, but also understand that there's different perspectives. I think we experienced that in our council leadership meetings with Jeff, where we could both be coming from two different spots and come to an agreement, always remaining cordial and respectful. That's been one of the greatest things I've appreciated about you, is that we can have disagreements in a respectful manner and get to a common place to move forward. Some of my best times as council president was lobbying for the city with you in Salem, and how we could enter a room and really confuse the lobbyists and of who's who and who's sitting on what side of the aisle. So the ability for us to engage, no matter what their political leaning was, and come out of that room with a positive outcome, and get the city some substantial dollars in 2 legislative cycles when it hadn't gotten any in a long time, was really impressive. And that was just a great honor to do with you, and I don't think I could have done it with anybody else that's on this dais, because you selflessly gave yourself and went all in, no matter what your workload was at the winery, or your workload was taking care of your foster dogs that are no longer fosters, or taking care of your family, your parents, and how dedicated they were to support your work. And I share that with how supportive my parents are in supporting this work. So I think even though we came from 2 different places, we could always find a path forward, because we were both all in, we were both there for the right reasons, we were both there from a spot of truth, and we wanted to make sure that the outcome was what was best for the city. So thank you. And now, City Manager Jeff Towery.
You're kidding. You're funny.
Oh, hold up your plaques.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you all very much. In my last city newsletter that I sent out today, I mentioned a few things, but I think the important one that I want to bring forward is that this has truly been the greatest honor of my life, and I have loved serving this community, and I am so proud of what we have accomplished together. It is truly amazing. So thank you all. Thank you for supporting me and giving me this opportunity, and ever forward. And we have business to get to for the rest of the evening. So we have a short agenda tonight. You wouldn't know it, being nearly an hour into the council meeting and not yet having started the business section, but we shall now. So first we are going to go to invitations to community members for public comment. Thank you all who came for this portion of the evening and to honor all these people. Thank you so much. Any interested audience member is invited to provide public comment. Anyone may speak on any topic other than a matter in litigation, a quasi-judicial land use matter, or a matter scheduled for public hearing at some future date. The comments are limited to 3 minutes per person for a total of 30 minutes. And who do we have signed up to provide comment this evening?
First, I want to state for the record that Dan Tukolsky emailed a letter to council that will be entered into the record tomorrow on the amended packet. First, we have Lisa Macy Baker.
Welcome. Nice to see you. Please remember to state your name and the city in which you reside for the record before you begin your public comment.
Okay, Lisa Macy Baker, McMinnville. First off, I just want to say thank you very much, and thank you to the three of you for your service. It's incredible, it's inspiring. And Councilor Menke, Kelly, I'll never forget when my dad pulled me aside, a long time ago. And he said, if you ever want to know how to govern or how to lead, pay attention to Kelly. And so, yeah, you're amazing. Thank you. So why I'm really here is to just to remind everybody of the incredible need to do something about our pool, community center, library, and senior center. And the time, work, dollars, and data that have been committed over the last 6+ years to get us to this point. I've heard grumblings about, everything we have is just fine. It's good enough. And I just want to say that this project and this effort is not just a feel-good project. It's not just a want. It's truly a need. And remind you guys to pay attention to the facilities assessment and the physical and program needs that we truly have in the city of McMinnville. There's a long list of liabilities in this document that was presented, I think 5 years ago, almost. So just want to make sure that this council and the future council understands that great need. And then just to remind you that we're at this point for a reason. Our community has doubled in size. We've gotten everything we can possibly get out of our current pool and community center. We haven't repaired responsibly or upgraded for 40+ years. I feel it's time to dedicate our efforts toward community livability, which includes community building, safety, and physical and mental health. We need your and future council's leadership and public display of support for this effort to move it forward and keep it off the shelf. And Councilor Menke, you again pointed that out, how having an effort and leadership from the entire group is imperative. This is a community effort, a nonpartisan effort. This is something for the well-being of our future. And I say that knowing that I'm probably, my kids are probably not going to fully benefit from this project. But I understand the great need. And I just want to remind you guys that, we know the economic, social, and health value of quality parks and recreation because it is well researched. Quality parks and recreation are noted as one of the top 3 reasons that businesses cite in relocation services. Is that okay. I'm not gonna, I've said it before, but I just want to say, please support this effort, whether it's in May or November. We need a full community effort towards this. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else has signed up for public comment?
Next, we have Cheryl Shoki.
Great, thank you, welcome. I forgot to mention that if you're on Zoom and you'd like to provide public comment, please send a chat to our city recorder or use the raise your hand function and we will unmute you when your time is up. Thank you. Please welcome and remember to state your name and the city in which you reside before you start your comments.
Good evening, I'm Cheryl Shockey, and congratulations you three, and thank you for your service. I am here on behalf of the McMinnville Pickleball Club to let you know that we need, you may be laughing, Chris, but I'm telling you, we are serious and we will support, we will come out, we want to partner with Park and Rec, we want to partner with the tennis group, we want to partner with anybody that will allow us to partner with them. If Adam and Kelly could make transportation and the fire below the 60% line, I don't see why we can't make that happen. If it's the younger family, adults that need to step up and vote in May, then we need to target them. If it is the older generation that needs to know about what's going to be the benefit for us, then we need to start talking to them. We need to start going to the community center. We need to, the senior center. I was at the swim pool today doing my laps, and I looked over at the arthritis group. They are crammed in that little pool. Crammed. Has anybody gone and talked to that? I'm telling you right now, we can do this. We can do this. There are people out there that you don't even know about that would be willing to help spread the word. Okay? Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Who do we have signed up next?
Next, we have Dan Tukolsky.
All right. Welcome, Counselor-elect. As you know, please remember to state your name and the city in which you reside for the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Dan Tukolsky. I live in McMinnville, Ward 2. So first, I wanted to thank Councilor Garvin, Councilor Menke, and Mayor Drapkin for all of your service over the years. I appreciate it. You've done a lot of great things, so thank you for that. So I do have a letter that I've emailed. It will be entered into record, but I'm going to go ahead and read this publicly. I said, Dear Mayor Drapkin and City Council, I am speaking to express concern about the rushed recommendations for appointment to the 2 vacant positions on the McMinnville Water and Light Commission. 1 week ago, this very City Council voted 5-1 to approve Resolution 2024-65, intended to clearly outline a transparent process for filling vacancies on city boards, committees, and commissions. While it's debated whether this applies to the McMinnville Water and Light Board, it's the spirit of the resolution, which our tight-knit community has agreed should be followed, but in this case is missing. Section 1A of this policy states, and I quote, standardization is intended to promote transparency of process, thereby increasing transparency of governance. These policies also seek to bring a higher level of accessibility to potential candidates throughout the city, end quote. This resolution supports an open recruitment process, formal applications, multiple interviews, and a thorough vetting of those recommended for appointment. In this case, there was no open recruitment process, application process, interviews, or vetting of anyone for the city to understand their qualifications to run a $60 million utility responsible for our most precious resource, our drinking water. These rushed appointments raise significant questions about the integrity and fairness of the decision-making process and stand in stark contrast to the support the mayor and city council once again purported for DEI at the last council meeting. DEI is defined as a framework for promoting fair treatment and participation for all people, especially those who have been historically underrepresented or discriminated against. I ask, how will you achieve diversity if you haven't given anyone the chance to apply? I ask, how is this equitable if you have just made recommendations instead of conducting a fair and impartial process? I ask, how is this inclusion if you've not given anyone the opportunity of equal access or opportunity to serve? As a concerned citizen and an incoming city councilor, I strongly ask these appointments to be delayed and properly conducted on the grounds these appointments violate the spirit of 2024-65 and also DEI, for which the city has stated support. The public deserves a fair, transparent, and accountable process, one upholding the standards set by the recent appointment of Commissioner Elmer to the McMinnville Water and Light Board, reflecting the spirit of the resolution which was just passed by City Council. So, councilors, I ask this evening that you delay the vote and conduct a proper application and vetting process.
Thank you. Who signed up next? Appreciate your comments.
Next, we have Kim Morris.
Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name and the city in which you reside for the record before you start your testimony.
Kim Morris, McMinnville, Oregon. And I too want to thank you. I sincerely appreciate all of the service you guys have given to the city. I'm here also in the last 2.5 years. I've heard this body talk about inclusiveness, equity, making sure that people had the opportunity to be included. And again, last Tuesday night, we sat here and watched as you passed Resolution 2024-65, the Unified Board and Committee appointment. And yes, I do know that the city attorney states that isn't for the Water and Light Commission. That's for the city. But again, that is also the same process that Mayor Drapkin, you asked to be used for the Water and Light Commission process to appoint for Ed Gormley's seat, which I totally agree with. I think there should be a process like that for inclusiveness. So Denny Elmer went through the process, as did 4 other applicants, And he was appointed and confirmed by this body last Tuesday night. Wednesday, 2 commissioners resigned, and by the end of the day, 2 appointments were suggested. I want to make sure you understand that I have nothing against the 2 people that were appointed. It's the process I have a concern with. We hear about being inclusive, equitable, fair, but yet the process used for the appointment of Commissioner Elmer did not get used the same way the very next day. It's not fair to the Commissioner Elmer, who had to go through the process with the other candidates. It's not fair to the runner-up that was told that he was qualified, except for Denny Elmer got it because he had some timber experience, and that this person should keep in mind that there are other appointments because the commissioners do leave. It's not fair to Adam, and it's not fair to Lisa Macy to have to be put in this for me to be up here and say this, but I have citizens as mayor-elect that have come to me, as well as myself as a citizen, that's concerned about the process being fair and equitable. It's not something that I want to do, but it's something that I feel I needed to do. I feel that you need to hold out on this appointment. Adam, and there's plenty of people out there that may want to apply. We don't know. We can look at it and go, well, maybe there were only the 5 and Denny and there's no more. But Adam and Lisa didn't apply either. So we aren't aware that there may not be anybody else out there. I think it's fair and equitable to go through the process, and the outcome may be the same, and that's okay. But it may not be either. It's, again, the fair and thing to do that this council continues to say that they want to do. The mayor has the right for the charter to appoint the person, but the council has to confirm. So I'm here asking you as a council to do what you've stated and what the citizens have asked you to be, transparent.
Thank you very much. Who else is signed up for public comment this evening?
Next, we have Jeff Kaiser.
Thank you. Welcome. Is Jeff here and wants to provide comment? No.
I don't do well in large areas. My name is Jeff Kaiser, longtime citizen of McMinnville, and I have some questions to ask of the council and the city manager. I'm a tax-paying local citizen. I live in an 82-unit manufactured home park here in McMinnville. And I'm probably the only one in our mobile home park that drives at night anymore, and I'm trying to pick up direct information on the RB rubber site. To give you some background, my father built a sheet metal shop that my brother took over later on the southeast corner of 8th and Alpine. So I'm very familiar with that whole property. I used to cut weeds around the building. Then I remember Yamhill plywood coming, and then obviously RB rubber. The building across the street was Copeland lumber in those days because we moved here in 1945. My question to you folks tonight is, I want to present to the people in our park because they asked me to get this information, exactly how much in taxpayer funds are involved to this point at the RB rubber site. And that includes the construction costs of Alpine Street and the RB rubber purchase, which includes the interest up till January 1 of this year. That's ongoing. You have utility bills, caretakers, whatever else is involved to this point in time so that we know where we are. There are many other city improvements and parkland purchase presently under consideration. Those are very important and they serve the whole community. What we're trying to find out is what is our debt structure at this point in time before we decide we need swimming pool, library, senior center, rec center, Parks Program additions. We have a new mayor and a different council makeup that are going to inherit this situation, RB Rubber, as of the first of the year. So how do we citizens, meaning the group that I report to, the information that I have requested, they want shared because we have potlucks before any further projects, because all the ones that are coming that we're talking below are going to be voted on by the public. So let's find out where we are now so we citizens know. It doesn't do me any good to read an article in the paper, oh, it's about $4.5 million, or it's about this. Let's be specific. These are facts that citizens need.
Thank you.
Hopefully I've been polite enough. Thank you.
Absolutely. Please make sure that you have a public comment card turned in. I think especially given the neighborhood request for information, I'm hoping that we can at the very least send an email, but maybe do better and do a visit to your neighborhood, talk to all the residents instead of relying on you to curry the information, especially because the question that you're asking is fairly complex and the financing structures are fairly complex, and how the city gets repaid is also complex. And so I think it would be best if we came and shared that information directly. Okay, so Council President agrees. Just adding some context for me. So I'm not sure who, but our city manager will be sure to discharge a member of our staff to be able to communicate more thoroughly with you and your neighbors, and thank you for bringing the concern forward, sir. Who else do we have signed up for public comment?
Next we have Murillo, I believe it's Martino.
Thank you, welcome. As a reminder, please state your name and the city in which you live for the record.
Murillo Martins, McMinnville. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Murillo Martins. I have had the privilege of coaching high school and club swimming in McMinnville for nearly 20 years. In addition, I have worked for the city of McMinnville as a lifeguard and swim instructor. As we all know, our pool is aging, and it has been facing several challenges. Currently, we don't have a functioning staff bathroom in the facility, and the roof leaks whenever it rains. These are just a few of the issues that have been affecting the facility. McMinnville has a long and proud history with this pool. For many of our community and the surrounding areas, the pool is a central part of their lives. Our swim programs, whether for fitness, swim lessons, or recreational use, are always full. Our high school swim team has won 5 state titles. And just last week, one of our local swimmers represented McMinnville at nationals at the University of Texas. The pool also serves as an economic engine for our town. It's the site of the largest aquatics indoor seating area in Oregon, and is a key venue for large competitions. Just last month, we hosted the largest swimming competition in the state with 609 athletes participating. This event brought families from all over Oregon, Eugene, Central Oregon, Portland metro area, who stayed in our local hotels, ate in our restaurants, and contributed to our economy. However, there is a growing concern among pool users that the ongoing maintenance issues could eventually lead to a pool closure, a fear increased by the recent closure of the pool in Corvallis. With no functioning pool, the residents of Corvallis are now facing a long-term gap in access to learn-to-swim programs, fitness opportunities, and aquatic recreation. The impact of such a closure in McMinnville would be felt deeply, especially by our youth and elderly populations. The loss of swimming programs could lead to increased drownings, as well as health challenges for our seniors who rely on swimming for exercise. I ask that we continue to have this conversation about building a new facility and ensuring that our Parks and Rec department receives the necessary funds for crucial maintenance and repairs. We cannot afford to let our pool close. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone else signed up for public comment?
Yes, next we have Sarah Tukolsky.
Thank you. And how are we doing on our time? I was not watching.
Minutes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Welcome. Please remember to state your name and city you reside. Thank you.
Tukolsky, McMinnville. First, as said before, thank you very much for serving. I work with teenagers every day and talk about service a great deal, and they look to you to role model that. So thank you for stepping in. Those that are serving now and those that are stepping down, appreciate it. I currently serve as president of the Library Foundation, which is a nonprofit that serves the needs of our local library and its patrons. I'm commenting tonight to express the need for our council and our community to support the Culture, Parks, and Recreation Bond. As you know, our original Carnegie Library was built in 1912 and then extended in 1982. It was 4 years old when that extension and renovation happened. The world has changed a lot since then. That year was the year that personal computers made it into homes, and now we carry them in our pockets. How we define a library is changing too. Yes, it's books and now digital material, but it's much more than that. Our library is our cultural and community hub, just like Third Street is our community's living room. We need it to meet the needs of today's community and not the community of 1982. Our library space matters, and the 1982 building is falling short. Yes, we have 2 floors, but that means lots of different rooms and spaces, which makes for a public building that is hard to staff safely and fully. Our children's room is too small for the community that we serve. Its small size creates blocked aisles. When there's too many people in a small space, families choose to leave the library altogether. In fact, they might not even enter the children's room at all because story times and programming must be held in an entirely different area of the library. There are no spaces for small groups to hold study sessions or a meeting, just at a time when society is needing more face-to-face and less face-to-screen. Oh, and let's not forget that our public library provides one of the few public restrooms downtown for locals and visitors to use. Lines put an unnecessary strain on library staff and on the families and seniors waiting in those lines. No, we can't anticipate everything that we need in the future, but we can address what is right in front of us. We can act as good ancestors, thoughtful ones that lead with solutions rather than defer action and burden McMinnville's future generations that I teach every day. That is our responsibility. It's not theirs. And I trust the council today's and tomorrow's to lead us wisely. Thanks for the time.
Thank you very much.
That's everyone that's signed.
That's everyone. Is there anyone on Zoom or in council chambers this evening that would like to provide additional public comment? Not hearing any. We will now go to new business, which are the Water and Light Commission appointments. I do want to address some of the concerns that have come up before I bring these appointments forward to the council. There's a couple things that I think are nuanced here that I want to highlight. One is that the policy or the charter lays out 2 very different directions for council appointments to committees and mayor appointment to the Water and Light Board. The council policy that we signed last week was 8 years in development, and the policies of the council similarly do not govern the Water and Light Board. And that is very specific in the charter, and the charter specifically directs the mayor to make appointments in case of an absence. I absolutely acknowledge I did try a different process and worked on developing a process over there that would aid me in making appointments, and that did produce an applicant that I most likely would not have come to on my own, and I think that that greatly benefits the Water and Light Commission. I received these unexpected resignations right at the end of my term, and allowing those resignations would not actually allow Water and Light to function. They would not have a governing board, which could be a very real issue, especially, say, a winter storm rolls in. So I am literally discharging the duties of my office as they are described in the charter. And with that, I would like to bring forward my appointments. The first is I'd like to recommend for approval the appointment of Lisa Macy Baker for the unexpired term of Kathy Tate, which will expire on December 31st, 2026. And I'd like to ask if counselors have any questions. And let me say a little more before we do counselor questions. I'm bringing forward this applicant, or rather this appointee, for many reasons, including her historic work with the McMinnville School District and Linfield College. And I really feel it's important for the McMinnville Water and Light Commission to have strong bridges with many partners in the community. Lisa was also a member of the MacPac Committee for the City of McMinnville and has repeatedly shown her dedication to the community, but also giving her insight into the future needs of the Miller property. She has extensive experience in both government entities and NGOs and is currently working with both Visit McMinnville and on the Panther Creek MTB Park, which is in partnership with BLM, our neighbors at the watershed. And then individually, she's a parent raising her children here in McMinnville, and also a fire family, and I think both those things bring a unique perspective. The commission has not had, I think bringing forward two applicants who both have children, while having children doesn't qualify you for a position, it is a big miss when people without children are, or when there are no people with school-age children serving. And so as maybe some icing on the cake, I present this appointee. And now I ask if the council has any questions. Councilor Chenoweth?
I don't have any questions. I guess I can, actually, I'll wait until there's a motion and then I'll comment at that point.
Okay. No other questions? Okay, I would ask for a motion to approve the appointment of Lisa Macy Baker for the unexpired term.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilor Menke.
Second.
And a second from Council President Garvin. And now I will open it up again for council discussion.
So, yeah.
Chenoweth, yeah, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think we heard eloquently expressed the conflict here from incoming Councilor Tukalski and incoming Mayor Morris. I'm very concerned about how this looks. You know, I know this is probably not cronyism, but for all the world it looks like it. When you remove the entire process by which you do an appointment, which would be a opening for applications, interviews, and discussions among the existing commissioners, which has been the procedure going back, I don't know how many years.
Never before.
Never.
On the Water
Never
and Light
before,
Commission.
sir.
Never.
Never before, and there was no discussion among commissioners.
Point of order.
I don't know why you're interrupting me. I don't do that to you.
Point of order.
My apologies.
I would encourage people to not engage in back and forth on the dais and wait until Councilor finishes his comment.
Thank you, Counselor. Please go on.
It was expressed to me, and what I saw in history was one in which we actually had a full application and interview process. And, you know, it's concerning. I think it looks bad for us to do this. I have no problem with Lisa. I have no problem with Adam. It very likely could we end up with the exact same candidates. But I think it's very important that we keep in mind how things look, not just how things are. And this looks for all the world terrible. I can't support it. I can't. I've had multiple calls that have come to me that have raised questions and concerns about this whole process. And I'll just be honest with you, I've hated this last 3 months. I've hated being put in the position of being the person that has made these kinds of comments. I don't like it. I don't like being put here. But I got to live with myself when I go home and when I look in the mirror. And this, for all the world, is exactly what I don't want to see happening in my city government. So I'm a no vote. And yeah, I know, Adam, you're a wonderful person and you would make a great commissioner. And Lisa, you're probably an excellent candidate and would make a great commissioner. But I just can't support this.
Thank you. Any additional council discussion? Councilor Payne?
Thank you, Mayor. I understand that McMinnville Water and Light is under a different entity, and that through our charter, you do have, the mayor has the ability to make appointments along the same lines of what Councilor Chenoweth mentioned and what's been brought up here tonight. The unified policy that we voted on and implemented last week, I feel like sets an expectation. It's not the rule, the law, the policy, but I think it sets the expectation. And I think that we've all done a very good job of trying our best to provide transparency when we can. That implementing the unified policy feels like a moot point if this is the direction that we're going. Not because I disagree with the appointments like Councilor Chenoweth. I agree that Adam and Lisa are probably fine appointments. It's the process and it's kind of the principle, and making sure that clear expectations in the interest of transparency are set.
Thank you. Any additional council discussion? Council President?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Chenoweth and Councilor Payne, for your comments. I do find it ironic that the councilors that are adamant we follow the charter are now lobbying not to follow the charter in the appointment process of water and light commissioners. The only commissioner for water and light that has ever been through a process was the recent appointment of Denny Elmer. Every other water and light commissioner since I've followed city government since 2013 has been a direct appointment and ratified by the council after the mayor made the recommendation. And until Denny Elmer's appointment, there was no process. You know, the policy that we adopted was a policy for our city committees. Water and Light has always operated as its own independent entity. It has its own tax identification number. It has its own budget. It has its own governing board. Do we expect the Water and Light to implement the DEI plan that we voted on last week? I don't believe so. It is the Water and Lights Commission and prerogative to set that policy if they want to go out there for their own consultant study and implement that type of work. So for us to sit up here and say we want to follow the charter 1 week, but we're not going to follow it the other week because it doesn't fit the political climate that we want to establish, for me is a bad look, and something that I hope people can look over their personal bias and vote for the process that's established in the charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional council discussion? Councilor Menke?
I have sat on this city council for 20 years, and quite frankly, the mayor always made the choice of who would be appointed or reappointed, as the case may be. And quite frankly, many of these people have been reappointed for years. I have no problem with this. It's the way it's done. It's prescribed in the charter. And, you know, obviously the council can vote however they choose, but normally it's been ratified by the full council.
Thank you. Any additional council discussion? Councilor Geary?
Since you became mayor, I shared early on some frustration with a few things to date, and an opportunity as you took mayor to maybe do things differently. And high on that one was the process in which Water and Light committee members were appointed. So when you carved out the process or created the process, on your own accord to appoint Denny, I very much appreciated that. It was everything we wanted it to be. And while I totally understand and appreciate the charter's specificity on that process and historic precedent on how it's been done, I do think, having had the opportunity to endeavor to openly appoint Denny through the process you created, and hearing support for that process going forward, it's hard to turn down the ability to do that. I understand the constraints potentially around emergency management and position, and I don't know how that would be navigated, but I do wish we had more time to make these appointments and follow that process that you created for Denny, and I'm hearing support for going forward. So I'm conflicted on what to do. I understand that you have we need people in those positions. Maybe it's also a look at expanding the number so two people don't put you in dire straits on a functioning board. So I don't know how it will be able to roll going forward, being able to have had that open opportunity and now not. So I'm pretty conflicted on this one.
Understood. Additional council discussion? Councilor Peralta, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Like some of the other councilors, I'm conflicted. I would prefer a different kind of process for Water and Light Board. That being said, I do believe that this mayor has the authority to make these appointments. I believe that, as this has been pointed out, this has been the tradition in the city. I don't necessarily agree with that tradition, but since the appointments have been made, and that appointments have been made in a manner consistent with the charter and consistent with how Water and Light has done this, I will be a yes in that I have confidence in both of these candidates, with some reservations, but it is the mayor's authority to make these nominations, and she has made them, and it's our vote. It's our opportunity to vote on those, and because I have confidence in the quality of both applicants, I will be a yes.
Thank you. I think I was fairly clear on everything so far, but just to put a finer point on it, the time frame that I learned of these resignations, the described duties, not pleasures, but duties of my office, as described in the charter, are quite clear. And I similarly hope that Water and Light could follow the lead that the council has taken and work to formalize a process that could be used. It's not uncomplicated because of the way they are laid out very differently in the charter. And so anything that the Water and Light Commission would choose to do going forward might be an adopted practice, but it would be, you'd need to be wary as well of not conflicting with the charter. Moving work at Water and Light has been a very slow process, as I think we've all seen with the few things I've brought forward. I do want to say I'm proud of some of the work that we accomplished there, including the creation of a strategic plan, which is the first time that entity has ever had a strategic plan. We also created a commissioner onboarding and training, which also had never existed before. So the incoming new members of the commission will be the first to benefit from that. The commission also implemented a commissioner, it's referred to as a commissioner compensation policy. It's a volunteer incentive policy that commissioners can choose to take or not take, and that again is working on not only driving at what the strategic plan calls out, which is to diversify the organization, but it is really to remove it is to help remove barriers to participation. That specifically was a lot easier and more simple to move forward at Water and Light because there are 5 volunteers at Water and Light, whereas at the city of McMinnville we have over 1,000 volunteers. So I appreciate the concerns that are coming up. This is a situation I find myself in when I have had questions about what should happen with the city. I refer back to the charter. I've read that charter so many times, so many late nights reading that charter. I can quote parts of that charter that I don't even want to be able to quote. But I am very clear that I am doing what the charter directs me to do. And so I appreciate all of the conversation this evening. I do have a motion and a second.
I have another
yes, sir.
questions,
Please,
if I may,
Counselor.
for nuts and bolts to help me get around on this motion and second is for which appointment?
This is
Or both or
for
one?
the appointment of Lisa Macy Baker into the unexpired term of Kathy Tate, which expires December 31st, 2026.
And there are there any recusals on the dais for this motion? Have there been, or?
There have not been any recusals on the dais that anybody has stated.
Okay. And remind me, the Mac Water and Light Commission is 4 members, voting members.
It's
The mayor
4
serves-
voting members and four commissioners and the mayor. The mayor is a voting member of the commission, unlike the council.
So right now, there's only 2 voting mayors, so there can be no meeting.
Right now, as of today, the second resignation went into effect today. So when the clock strikes midnight, there will be only 1 seated commissioner and the mayor, and that is not enough to hold a meeting.
So we need, wait, why was there only 1? There should be 4 and then we lose 2?
Right, so we have, Denny was appointed for an upcoming term. So when that resignation came in, there was, the timing was simply different, and there was very little time left in the outgoing commissioner's term. So instead of doing an interim appointment for a month and then a reappointment, we held that time and did an appointment for the beginning of the term. So Mr. Elmer's term starts at the natural time that terms would start. Both the recommendations that I'm bringing forward tonight immediately fill, and they're for the remainder of the term. So they're not for entire terms. They are to fill out the remainder of the terms. And so if you see in your packet, 1 expires in a year and 1 expires in 2 years, or 26 and 27 respectively.
So these 2 would be, come first of the year, would be commissioners 3 and 4 to round out the body.
These commissioners would be, these commissioners would become commissioners at this time because Mr. Elmer's term, Commissioner Elmer's term will not start until the beginning of the year.
Right, but that's already done. That's happening.
That will happen at the beginning of the year, yes.
So voting-wise, procedurally, to me, I'm going to consider these commissioners 3 and 4. And we need a 3rd commissioner to conduct business.
Correct. We need 3 members of the commission in order to conduct business. And I think Council President has something.
Just to help you out, Councilor Geary. So Denny Elmer's term that we appointed him to last begins January 1, 2025 and goes through January 1, 2028 for a full 4-year term. And so we didn't make an appointment for the remaining 2 weeks of Ed Gormley's term because we had a remaining 4 of 5 commissioners. We had the 3 commissioners plus the mayor. Now we've had 2 resignations effective tonight. So we have the mayor and Commissioner Tankersley left. Commissioner Tankersley's term expires the end of 2025. The mayor's term expires December 31st, 2024. So in 2 weeks, you would have one commissioner. So for that 2-week window between January 14th, providing that there was an appointment that still wouldn't be going through the process, there would only be one commissioner, and so there could be no meetings, there could be no quorum, and there could be no business conducted from the policy body of the McMinnville Water and Light Commission. If these two appointments stick tonight between Lacey Macy Baker and myself, you would have 3 commissioners in active terms that could conduct business regardless of when the new mayor is sworn in and the old mayor's term expires. And then Denny Elmer's term starts Jan 1.
Why couldn't we, would it be possible just to move Denny Elmer up and have him start now?
That's not the recommendation that I'm bringing forward, and that would be its own individual process. I mean, it'd have to go back to legal, but also that's not the recommendation, that's not what I'm bringing forward.
To your point, Councilor Chenoweth, you'd be appointing him to the remaining 2 weeks of a term to then come back January 1 and need to reappoint him to a new term.
No, that's not what I asked. What I asked was, can we just have him start now rather than waiting to the first of the year?
No, because the term that he would start right now expires December 31st, 2024. The term we appointed him to starts January 1, 2025.
I understand your argument. Okay, I'm not going to do it back and forth. One thing I would like to say is, nothing in what I said was indicative of, I started out by concurring with Tucholsky and incoming Councilor Tucholsky and incoming Mayor Morris and their comments that we understand what the charter says. So I'm not trying to go against the charter whatsoever. That illusion or irony is not present. There's no intent here to do that. I've made all my other arguments. I just wanted to make that clear.
I understand. Any additional council discussion at this time?
One procedural question for legal. If theoretically there was a tie, would the mayor be the tie-breaking vote?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Menke and a second from Council President Garvin. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And it is split 3-3, and so I will vote in the affirmative, and the appointment is passes with a vote of 4-3. I will now make a recommendation to approve the appointment of Adam Garvin for the unexpired term of Jody Christensen. The term will expire on December 31st, 2027. Do councilors have any questions? I would ask for a motion to approve the appointment of Adam Garvin for the unexpired term.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilor Menke.
Second.
And a second from Councilor Peralta. I would ask if there's any council discussion.
Legally, David, do I need to recuse myself, or is it a point of privilege if I choose to?
I believe that you should recuse yourself based on certain other ORS situations.
I will be recusing myself, Mayor.
Thank you. Any additional council discussion? Not hearing any, I would ask all those in favor to please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
And Councilor Payne, I'm sorry. Abstain. Okay, thank you. I did not hear you. I have one abstention, one recusal, and the recommendation is approved with a vote of 3-1. Thank you. We will now go to reports from counselors on committee and board assignments. I will start with Counselor Chenoweth this evening. I'm sorry, sir. I will start with Counselor Peralta this evening. No harm intended. My apologies.
Thank you, Mayor. For McMinnville Community Media, George Fox intern Austin Deal has completed her internship. Those who have seen the on-the-street segments at MCM 11 were watching Austin's work. We are grateful for that. Wish her every success in her career going forward. The Saturday Film Club submitted its 6th film to the McMinnville Film Festival, Psychic Death. There will be a screening and recruiting event in March or April to recruit new filmmakers to learn that process and learn how to make movies. MCM 11 has removed the residency requirement for people interested in becoming MCM 11 members and adopted a fee schedule for service. Individuals can also substitute volunteer hours in lieu of payment. MCM 11 is working with the McMinnville School District to promote the district's Grow Your Own program. This is Oregon, so I should point out that the program doesn't have the connotation that folks might assume. It's actually a program to help. It's actually a program to help students at the district achieve licensure as classified and professional staff at the school district, and MCM 11 would be looking to help with promotional videos for that program, which is a wonderful program through the school district. Council of Governments met in its quarterly meeting. Council of Governments set the membership and fee service rates for 2025. Both fees slightly increased over this year. COG also received a top rating for its audit with no issues this year. This completes a 3-year process at COG to improve its accounting system that began when I served as chair. I'm very proud of the work that the staff at the COG has done to improve those accounting processes. COG tabled its legislative agenda to a future meeting due to disagreement over portions of the goals and agenda. I encourage the board to act on a consensus basis and pursue a more narrow legislative agenda than it was contemplating. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Payne?
Thank you. LIPSIC, the Local Public Safety Coordinating Council, has not met since November. Their next meeting is January 22nd. And Landscape Review Committee met today and had an excellent meeting and approved their 2025 work plan.
Thank you. Councilor Menke?
Affordable housing met today. We discussed the housing production strategy, which we all got to talk about last Tuesday. And it will be the impetus for our overall plan for how to proceed in the next year. So, good talk. We went over all the items again and had brought in other things that we thought were important. Also on Monday, I attended the 3rd Street survey results committee information, and you saw what they talked about tonight. So that's what I've got.
Thank you. Councilor Gary?
Thank you. DEIAC had a meeting last week. The primary thrust of the agenda and content was talking about committee onboarding packet, creating the DEIAC's committee onboarding packet, which could serve as a great template for all other committees in the city. And so they're taking that really seriously and putting in good work. There was an additional discussion around, as part of that onboarding training process and public meetings law and getting commissioners who go from little to no civic engagement to right into the policy making and discussion and advising and getting them up to speed on all those rules that they're now bound to and how we also comply as a city with all the new rules and regulations around that. So we'll be good friends with David Leitenberg coming up. And then MURAC, well, you no meeting previously, but you heard about 3rd Street improvement and the Ultimate RB had a successful open house. Affordable housing, and you heard from affordable housing from Kelly. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President?
Thank you. don't really have anything new from a committee perspective. Nothing's met, but I just want to take the time to thank city staff, E-team, any line staff on Zoom land or watching on YouTube for all the work you guys have done to help me be a better policymaker and get data back in a timely fashion, as well as prepare thoughtful staff reports. So thank you for the work you do, and I know sometimes comments from up here can sting a little bit, but it was always said in good intention, and appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to be brief in my report tonight. First, I really want to thank Public Works for getting the bathrooms working here about 5 minutes before meetings started. That is more than greatly appreciated. I am just stating again, because I think it's important to continue noting that the Navigation Center is set to open on January 2nd, and that is great news for the community. And then while Councilor Gary did mention the design charrette on the Northwest Rubber site, I'm going to expand just a little bit. It's the first time the city's ever done a process like this, and it was an exceptionally successful event. I say that not only because of the breadth of community members that we had there, including many area residents, business owners, and property owners who were giving feedback to the 3 development teams that are in consideration. Each one of those development teams said that their ideas were changed and impacted by the interactions that they had there. They also said that there were multiple things about this that were unique. They've never been in a space where there's other development teams at the same time, and while it gave them some nerves to begin with, in the end it was really great because they had this opportunity to cross-connect and see what other people were doing for engagement. But the other thing that was striking was that they said that the experience was entirely positive and that they've never gone to basically a community information type workshop where the city is presenting something it plans on doing, where it's not getting told, you know, this is what I don't like, you guys messed this up, and that there's just not a slew of negative comments, in addition to people saying what they like. All 3 teams said it was across the board positive interactions, and people were so grateful for the opportunity to inform the design instead of being informed of the design. So I just really want to give high kudos to our community development center, and our communications and engagement manager who did a tremendous effort. Area door hangers, direct letters. There was a big push to get people there, and it really showed. So fantastic work, and that is it for my reports. City Manager Towery.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Briefly, I don't have an official announcement on our finance director recruitment. We are continuing our work, and I expect to make an announcement in the new year. Speaking of the new year, we want to wish everyone a safe and joyous holiday season and a safe and healthy and happy new year. Thank you for your service, and thank you for making this community a great place.
Thank you. City Attorney David Leitenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing from the legal department tonight.
Thank you. Community Development Director Heather Richards.
My mic will only turn on if I press it down. Is that a sign? Did you guys do this deliberately? Mayor and councilors, indulge me for just a minute. I want to share a story with you that I heard this weekend, and it has to do with the Navigation Center. The Navigation Center has been a collaborative project between YCAP and the city, and has had some bumps along the road. But this weekend I heard a story from a woman in our community who shared with me that 18 years ago, she was an addict and homeless on the street, and had been homeless for 3.5 years and had children, and was a local, grew up here in McMinnville. Her and her partner learned that she was pregnant, and she reached out to YCAP for housing assistance. And YCAP said to her, if you are able to, stop abusing, we will put you in shelter and for you and your family, your oncoming family. So her and her partner made the decision that they would stop that day. They were put into shelter. It was in the home, that's one of the homes that is now going to be part of the Navigation Center. And she had her baby there. Her and her partner have been sober for 18 years. Their child grew up here in McMinnville and is very successful. They are a successful family here owning a home. So when she was telling me this story, she was telling me that it saved that home saved her life. And I always tell my colleague Jody as she works through this project, that's why we're doing this. It's those stories and the outcomes associated with that. So we've had a bumpy road. It's been, a project in terms of management, but that's the outcome we're all looking for, and I like to focus on those stories.
Thank you. Special Projects Coordinator, Jody Christensen.
I have nothing to add, but I do have something later on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lofton?
I was here for the presentations, but would like to add, although it's been short, I've sincerely enjoyed working with y'all and appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you. HR Director Vicki Hedges.
Nothing to report tonight, but just a sincere thank you to Councilor Garvin, Councilor Menke, and you, Mayor Drabkin.
Thank you. Library Director Berg.
Nothing to add about the library, but thank you very much for your service. It's quite amazing and admirable.
I do have one thing to add in addition to thanking the three of you for your leadership.
Thank you, Parks and Recreation Director Susan Muir.
Thank you. I want to remind everybody that we have an adaptive community hangout this Friday. It's free at the community center from 5:30 to 6:45, and we hope to see people there for food, fun, and family activities.
Thank you. Public Works Director Jeffrey Hunsaker.
You're welcome for the bathroom, but that was all Gianni, who was already home for the night, and we called him, and he came right back in. So he's a quintessential Public Works employee, and echoing thank you, all three, for your service.
Excellent. Thank you, Gianni. IS Director and Interim Finance Director Scott Burke.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a quick reminder to those involved, there's Budget Committee interviews going on tomorrow. And on the court side, we also hope to announce a new clerk coming on in January. That'll be a welcome relief to the people running court still. And my respect and thanks to the three outgoing leaders. It's been an honor to serve the city under your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. City Recorder Claudia Cisneros.
As I echo everyone else, thank you. It's been amazing working with the three of you. Going to miss you guys. And then on a separate note, I have a bunch of dates, so bear with me. 12/24, our regularly scheduled last meeting of the year is canceled, Christmas Eve. And then city offices will be closed Wednesday, December 25th, as well as January 1st. Goal setting is set for January 11th. Outgoing members, you're still on the seat, so if you're welcome to attend. New members who are in the audience, and I've already emailed. Hope to see you there. And then our first meeting of the year will be January 14th, where we'll do swear-in and some orientation.
Thank you very much. We're to our consent agenda, which only has one item. Does anybody want to discuss that item as opposed to addressing it as a consent item? Does any counselor need to recuse themselves from this action item?
They have great cinnamon rolls, but it won't affect my vote.
Okay. All right. I would then ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Whoa. I have a motion from Councilor Geary and a second from Council President Garvin. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. and the consent agenda passes unanimously. We will now consider resolution number 2024-72, a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend by change order the contract with Fackler Construction Company for the construction manager general contractor contract for the Any Door Place at McMinnville Navigation Center. It's Christensen, Special Projects Coordinator Christensen.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is just a standard process in our contract with Fackler. A change order is the process in which we review expenditures that were above the contract amount. These are within budget. We've reviewed them in the normal process, so we're just bringing forward this change order for your, this resolution for your consideration.
Thank you. I'll ask for some council discussion. Council President, do you want to start?
Just a point of clarity from Special Projects Manager Christensen. This is basically just a housekeeping item for $496.
Yes, in a previous resolution, you approved a not to exceed amount. That was a estimate on our part back in March. And now that we've come to this point, we were $400 and some off of that. So yes, it is a housekeeping item.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional council discussion? I would ask for a motion to approve resolution number 2024-72.
So moved.
I have a motion from Council President and a second from Councilor Payne. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed say nay.
Nay.
And the resolution passes 5-1. Is that correct? Councilor Chenoweth, I didn't hear your vote. Was it a yay or a nay?
I was an aye.
It was an aye. Councilor Peralta? You were a nay. Okay, pardon me. The resolution passes 4-2. We will now consider resolution number 2024-73, a resolution appointing and reappointing members to the city's various boards, committees, and commissions. And I'd call on Heather Richards, our Community Development Director, to present.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this is following up on your resolution from December 10th. We had we had a resignation, an appointment for the resignation, and then another interview for two of the vacancies that we had on the Affordable Housing Committee. So the same process was followed in terms of having interviews with the mayor, council representatives, staff liaison, and chair. And they are recommending Mandy Tatum for a 3-year position on the Affordable Housing Committee that expires December 31, 2027. And then Lee McCollins to fulfill a vacant term due to a resignation for 1 year that will expire December 31, 2025. On the Landscape Review Committee, excuse me.
Thank you. I would now ask for a motion to approve resolution number 2024-73. I have a motion from Councilor Payne.
Second.
And a second from Council President. Is there any council discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed say nay. And the resolution passes unanimously. Congratulations to those members and thank you for your service. We will now consider, and typically, I'm sorry, I almost skipped over this, invite new members to invite them to introduce themselves, if you'd like, to the council and the community. Lee, would you like to do that this evening? Excellent. Yeah, just if you want to come introduce. And a fabulous gardener. Yes.
Of native plants. You are Mr. Native Plants. I like it.
Hey.
I believe you donated a title, Adam.
That was from the interviews.
I do recall that.
We will now consider the second reading of ordinance number 5153, and I would call on Heather Richards, our Community Development Director, to present any additional information.
I don't have any additional information for you other than to remind you that the amendment for the first reading included deleting 2 of the additions that the Planning Commission had recommended to you in terms of section 17.64.060A6, the motion was to delete the recommended amendments of D and E, which included adding a public plaza and active use parks and licensed daycare or childcare center to the separation language there. The ordinance that you have in your package represents that amendment.
Thank you. Council might recall the ordinances did not have unanimous support at the December 10th meeting, requiring the second readings to be conducted at this special meeting. So unless any member requests otherwise, I will ask our city attorney, David Leitenberg, to read the ordinance by title only.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second reading of ordinance number 5153. An ordinance amending the McMinnville Municipal Code, Chapter 17.64, to provide time, place, and manner regulations for psilocybin activities in McMinnville.
Thank you. Is there any council discussion or deliberation on the ordinance? I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt ordinance number 5153.
So moved.
I have a motion from Council President and a second from Councilor Geary. Sorry, he got to it first. And I would ask the city recorder to poll the council.
Councilor Geary,
Aye.
Councilor Menke,
Aye.
Councilor Chenoweth,
Nay.
Councilor Payne. Aye. Councilor Peralta.
And the ordinance passes.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're close. The ordinance is adopted by a vote of 5-1. We will now consider the second reading of ordinance number 5155, and I'd like to call on Tom Schauer, our senior planner, to present any additional information. Mr. Schauer's on Zoom.
Yeah, so Mayor, I'm going to lead the presentation tonight, and Tom hasn't been feeling well, but he's here to answer any difficult questions you may have of me on this. So.
Great, thank you.
So this is the second reading of ordinance number 5155. This is a land use application approving a plan development amendment 1-24 and a subdivision tentative plan amendment S3-24. This is for subdivision in the West Hills, Hillside subdivision. It was originally approved in 2007, amended in 2017. It is an approved subdivision. This amends it in a couple of ways. It's a 392 lot, 392 lots remain in this subdivision, and this amendment brings in more open space into the subdivision itself. It also amends the townhomes that were originally represented in this subdivision and changes those to multi-generational homes. Those are the large amendments in there. There's an additional amendment which looks at a fee in lieu of tree planting if we're not able to achieve the tree planting required for replanting a tree for trees that are removed in terms of the topography of the site. We estimate that fee in lieu of is approximately $500,000 that will be collected, and we are recommending that be put into a fund to help replace street trees in our low and moderate income neighborhoods.
Thank you. As council may recall, the ordinance did not have unanimous support at the December 10th meeting, requiring the second reading to be conducted at this special meeting. Unless any member requests otherwise, I will ask City Attorney David Leitenberg to read the ordinance by title only.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the second reading of ordinance number 5155. An ordinance amending ordinance number 5024, the previous planned development amendment approval, ZC 6-17, amending the previous subdivision tentative plan approval, S 13-06/AP 2-07, as amended by ordinance number 5024, approving a planned development amendment, PDA 1-24, and approving an amended subdivision tentative plan, S 3-24, for the remaining phases of the Hillcrest Plan development, approximately 106 acres, tax lot R452400801.
Thank you. And I ask for council deliberation and discussion on the ordinance. Councilor Peralta.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. Heather, can you explain the difference to me, the difference between a multi-generational home and a townhome?
Yeah, so a multi-generational home has an attached apartment to it as well as a living unit that allows for children to stay with their parents or parents to stay with their children, but have a separate living space. A townhome is an attached living unit to another attached living unit.
So a townhome would have a higher density of different families living in the same lot size essentially, and a multi-generational home is essentially larger.
Not necessarily. So previously, so the existing approved plan has 394 lots associated with it, and that included the townhome lots. The amended plan development has 392 lots. The reason that there's a reduction in lots is because there is more open space. There's more open space for a couple of different reasons. There was, after doing more geotech analysis on the site, which is the hillside, there was a discovery of a landfill that wasn't known before, that does not have the soil stability to support development. That's now being placed into a park, private park for the area. And then there's also a lot of dense basalt rock in the hillside, and that also will be tough to develop. So that's also being placed into open space too. So the lots are smaller in the amended plan development. There's 2 less than the existing approved plan. So the density is not changing.
What percentage of the area in the subdivision takes in the old oak grove that is in that acreage?
Can you repeat the last
How
part?
many
of that
acres
question?
are currently a legacy oak?
Might have to defer that to Tom. Tom, did you hear that? How much acreage is in a legacy oak grove?
I did hear that. I don't have that calculation specifically for that acreage. I could show you graphically on a map roughly what that looks like, if that would be helpful.
Yes, that would be helpful. Thank you.
And I would just say, Councilor Peralta, that grove is not protected in the existing land use decision.
I'd still like to see the map if I could.
You can bear with me one moment here. There's an aerial photo on page 38 of the packet, and I'll screen share here in just a moment.
The Oak Grove's that west section, Tom?
Yes, so you're able to see the screen share. You've got the area that's generally darker green. The blue outline is the subject property. So there's some, the darker green is the conifers. The area on the westerly side is more the mixed oak groves. I don't know the exact
Thank you. That's
blend
sufficient.
of trees, but roughly the westerly portion there.
So maybe about a third of the subdivision.
Of the remaining, yes.
Okay. So 4 years ago, after the council approved the Oak Ridge subdivision that destroyed one of the few remaining white oak groves in the city, I and other members of the council asked the planning department to develop policies to protect old growth trees and groves in the city. Due to capacity issues, staff was unable to complete the work in the next 3 subsequent years. Every time an area master plan has come up, I have repeated requests for these protections, including most recently this year when the Fox Ridge master plan was presented to us. At that time, I indicated that the only reason I was voting yes was my faith in the pledge of the planning department that they would complete that work within the year, and because the parks and open space plan we had agreed to at the time would protect 2 of the few remaining oak groves in the city. Since that time, the protections for 2 of those groves have been removed from the park plan, and this one, the third, which I believe is the largest oak grove remaining in McMinnville, will be eliminated by this subdivision. I understand that the planning director has indicated that that might not have been included. Well, it's not included because we haven't passed any protections. So that work remains uncompleted, and the groves in the city remain unprotected. I don't place the blame for this entirely on staff. Our council could have done more during the last 4 years to ensure the staff had sufficient resources to complete this work. However, I will carry the feelings of guilt about the loss of these legacy oak to my grave. I'd also like to point out that advocacy groups like Thousand Friends of Oregon bear a portion of the blame for this. It was their appeal of our city's parks plan to the DLCD that resulted in staff recommendations to remove the status of two of the groves that had previously been slated for protection through parks planning. So if this goes through, they'll be cut down to build houses, and either this council or the next one will be in a position to eliminate the last of the white oak groves in the city of McMinnville. And for me, $500 per tree is not sufficient to offset these harms. White oak are slow growing. It takes 100 to 300 years for them to flesh out their canopy. Some of these trees were here before the first white settlers came to Oregon. Their cultural and natural significance of the trees can't be overstated. 97% of all the white oak habitat in the Willamette Valley has been lost over the last 100 years. And once they're gone, they will never come back in our lifetimes or the lifetimes of our grandchildren's children. I believe this subdivision would not have been possible with the work of the council to get $2 million in funding for water infrastructure in exchange for the developer to allocate a portion of the subdivision to workforce housing. The amount of workforce housing required shrunk during the legislative process, and the market rate for these houses is far beyond the income of most residents of this city. So for those reasons, I'll be voting no on the subdivision because of the permanent negative impact it will have on our community. I encourage fellow councilors to ask the developer to reconsider the planning for this subdivision and bring it back to us with at least some protections, more significant protections that they have considered so far.
Thank you. Additional council discussion? Councilor Chenoweth?
It was pretty weighty, Sal. Thank you for your comments. My understanding is we already have this area in an approval. So either we make minor changes to it or we go back to what's already been approved, correct?
They can build what's approved right now.
While I chew on what was just stated, I did want to say in the last couple of weeks, it's interesting, a couple of conversations have taken place that I've had regarding multi-generational housing. And so I guess in a similar vein of encouraging development that I think would be helpful in both providing more density and in meeting needs. I've spoken to multiple people that have indicated they could not find that when they needed it. They could not find when their parents were ready to downsize and move into either assisted living or a unit next to their home so that they could be taking care of them. There was literally nothing available on the market. And the reverse, if they wanted their kids to be in some sort of setting where they had some autonomy but not in their home, it's just not available on the market at all. Not a price point, it's just not there. So I am encouraged by hearing that that's going to be a part of this development. I am very discouraged by hearing the comments of my colleague regarding the white oaks. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Additional council discussion? Council President?
Just a point of clarity for the housing types Councilor Peralta was inquiring about. The townhomes would be, if they would have been built, would have been individually deeded properties that people would have bought individually, similar to the ones on Cypress. And then the multi-generational housing product we're talking about is kind of the detached ADU model that you see over on McGuire and Baker Creek East-West.
I'm not.
The townhouse, yes, those would be separate lots, common wall. The multi-generational, those would be attached units. So they essentially would be 2 units on a lot. I believe the intention would be one primary and one sort of secondary in size.
But they would be attached together. They wouldn't be detached like the McGuire ADUs
Correct.
that have kind of just been short-term rentals.
Correct.
And Lennar has built a couple of multi-generational products in Baker Creek North.
Okay, thank you.
Additional council discussion? I would ask for a motion to adopt ordinance number 5155.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilor Menke.
I'll second it.
And a second from Councilor Chenoweth. And I would ask the city recorder to poll the council.
Counselor Geary,
Nay.
Counselor Menke,
Aye.
Counselor Chenoweth,
Aye.
Counselor Peralta. No. Counselor Payne,
No.
Council President Garvin.
Aye.
And Mayor Drabkin.
I just want to state that I don't take lightly what you've brought forward, Councilor Peralta, and I also don't see how that fits into a condition or doesn't. I don't see where the conditions aren't being met for approval. I'm not saying that I agree with or think that the developers should remove these trees, and it would be preferable clearly to the council and the community if you could work around them. That said, the approval that happened in 2007 allowed for that. Any path forward currently allows for this, as far as I understand. And so for that, with bearing all of that in mind, I vote to approve ordinance number 5155, and the ordinance is adopted by a vote of 4-3. The meeting is adjourned at 9:27 p.m.
Merry Christmas, you all.